Now with AI, we're breaking through whole new areas of automation that we just couldn't do before.
Nobody writes stuff from scratch these days, especially with AI and whatnot.
We use LLMs and they're super powerful, but there's a limit on complexity on what they can actually do.
You end up fucking breaking your project, which used to work. It only had one small thing which needed fixing.
It saved me 2 weeks. I could have done this manually. It would have taken me a whole month.
I'm a builder, and I'm kind of born a builder, and I'm gonna die a builder, I guess.
Junior developers, they come in, they don't have the experience, right? But they also don't have the limitations that you have.
They'll just do whatever because they're starving.
It being hard is actually the reward.
A lot of people think, oh, entrepreneurship, I'm just gonna grab my fucking coffee, I'll come up with an idea, all of a sudden the money flows into my pockets, you know?
The only way to make a change in your life is to make a change in your routine.
Nothing you think you own, you actually own. Everything is rented.
Life is not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of VUnstaged with yet another special guest. I only keep having special guests, no unspecial guests. And this time, another special guest, as I said, but I won't spoil the show. I will let him introduce himself. So without too much further ado, if you can tell us your name, what do you do for a living? And I ask everyone, how did you get into tech? Because everyone has their unique, interesting story.
Well, first of all, thanks, Steve. Thanks for the invitation. Glad to be here. So my name's Dumitru Șișianu. I'm in software development, VR engineering specifically. I'm a lead engineer currently at Status Pro, where we do American football. We kind of digitalize it. We've built VR games with it and just sort of done a lot of stuff around the VR development industry.
And how did you get into tech? I'm curious.
Back when I was, I don't know, 8th grade, maybe earlier actually, one of the favorite games at that point and pretty much for my entire life has been Starcraft, Warcraft,
Starcraft,
those strategies.
Okay. So you were into RTS as well?
Yeah, of course. Obviously.
Have you played Generals?
No, not Generals though.
What about Red Alert?
Know about it, haven't played it. Right.
Okay, what about Age of Empires?
Currently playing it right now.
Is it the fourth?
I'm playing the second one because I've totally missed that entire.
They've rolled out some updates.
Yes, the second one.
Is the DLC cool?
Is what?
Is the DLC which they rolled out interesting? Because
I haven't checked out the DLC yet. Literally just kind of getting to know the game. Played a few days essentially. It's pretty interesting. You get to see sort of historical moments in there as well.
It's extremely I would say Age of Empires, at least the 4th edition, is by far the most interesting, complex strategy game. Like you have so many interesting things happening there in the sense that you have different sources of food, different strategies. You can't there's no free lunch. That's what I like about it. Like there's no you cannot come with a strategy which is gonna give you everything. If you get something, you sacrifice something else.
Yeah,
and you have to prioritize.
That's the whole strategy.
Yeah. And if you ever plan on getting into the 4th edition, we have a gang of 8, 10 guys.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You guys play. Very cool.
Yeah, it's a really, I mean, I haven't spent time on the ladder in a sense competitive and whatnot. We play multiplayer with the friends, but it's really cool game. Yeah.
Nice. I only got into it recently, so I've got a ways to go to get competitive. But it was surprisingly deep, right? I didn't realize how deep that whole series of games is. The fact that projectiles are dodgeable. Like you can do that micromanagement where you go with one unit and you're just dodging an entire army.
I didn't understand the fucking concept of a move, if you know what I mean. Like you have attack when you just select targets to attack, but then you have attack move, which is attack whatever the fuck is in your way, you know?
Right.
And the reason they put it that way is because you have this degree of microing everything that is the game changer. The difference between the highest elo players and the mediocre or even the highest rated players, but without with less elo, is actual micro. So you just look at the best players in the game, how they micro shit is how the fuck do you have their APM is 500 something.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. I'm like a noob compared to them, but I love the game. Yeah.
Nice, yeah, definitely a deep, impressive game, and I do look forward to checking out, the DLC and the further games in the series. But back to the question, right, of like how did I get into the industry? So, back in the day, I was playing Starcraft and then Warcraft, and I discovered that there's a map editor, right? And I was like, oh, holy shit, I can build my own thing here. And I was playing online. There were a lot of custom maps, different people playing different ideas. Like in Warcraft had a very similar thing. That's how Dota came to be, right? Like the
Yeah, yeah.
first version of Dota was in Warcraft. So like my very first experience, pretty young, just trying to poke at it, and it was very cool. Like I loved doing all that stuff, but I had a hard limitation of like I had to do scripting. I didn't know how to do that, so I was pretty intrigued. I did Starcraft maps for a little bit. I did Warcraft maps for a little bit. That was a lot of fun, and then I kind of just got lost in high school and all that. But I just always knew like IT has a lot of potential. It aligned with the stuff I wanted to do, to optimize, to automate, right? So I didn't have an exact thing I wanted to do at that point, but I was just like, I love doing this stuff. Interestingly, after my first year of university, I was a little bit like, oh man, C and just getting to know C++. Plus plus. It was very technical, and I was like, I'm not sure if this is the most exciting path for me. And I've gone to the US for a summer internship, worked as a server there. It was, a really cool experience. It kind of made me wonder, like, do I really want to go back and like get stuck behind, all that math? But I'm really glad I did. I came back, and then after the second year at the university, I did my first internship at Magic Indie, and it was a game development company, and they were really busy. They just told us, like just do like a car shooter racing something game. Again, they were really busy. They didn't care. They were releasing their own game. But for me, that was just so exciting. Like I would come to work, to that unpaid practice every day, and I was just like, oh man, what new ideas can I build into it today? Although racing is not really my type of game, but just the experience of being creative but also technical, right? And
It can be very technical, at least from my experience with working for a sim racing game.
mhm. Oh
It
wow,
Yeah, it's Rensport. If you don't
what
Rensport, that was,
Rensport?
yeah, that
No.
was the name. Like they're competing with like Assetto Corsa,
Hmm.
if you heard of it.
Like I yeah, horse I think I've heard of. Like I said, racing is not really my.
It's not my type either, but when you would like go into stand-ups with other gameplay developers, and they would describe the way like they do the logic in the game, and then how they have like this breadcrumbs, like where they have like you shadows when you train against yourself and things like that. Like it's a lot of interesting things happening there, especially like the physics engine and whatnot. Like, and yeah, I even picked up a course myself. I'm like, this is very interesting. I just wish it wasn't in C++.
Well, it's only in C++ in some engines, like in Unreal. I work in Unity for most of my experience, which is C sharp, way easier and more fun to work with. Less focused on the technical aspects to a certain degree, right? Like there's definitely a lot of complexity still, but it allows you to move faster. And I think the challenge with software development in general is like it takes a very short time to come up with an idea, right? And then a bit more time to like flesh it out and think through the UX, and then it takes a huge time to actually go and implement that. And like by the time you've done it, you're like, oh man, that
Forget what
was
you're doing.
that was a lot. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
hard. So yeah, like that's why I prefer being in Unity, because it allows you to move faster, to kind of ideate quicker, etc. So like they're AAA games. You want to do them in C++, right? Because you want to squeeze as much performance as you can out of it. But for something where AAA is not the focus, like you're not building the next Witcher, you're just doing like a racing game. You're doing VR, for example, is mostly in Unity, is because you want to move fast, right? Like in VR especially, there's a lot of VR specific challenges. So again, you get to focus on those instead of having to deal with memory leaks and pointers and
Yeah,
C++
yeah. You
complexities.
mentioned this idea of tinkering with the game, the map builder and whatnot, and
Hmm.
in my mind, my mind goes back to like generals, and I remember when like the time when you weren't buying shit. Like you go into Steam, buy stuff, and then that stuff automatically gets patched every single week when you play it and stuff like that. You just buy shit. It's stored in your computer. It's still stored, but it's like in a cryptic way. But at the time, you just have everything in the file system. You kind of navigate it. And I remember the times when I would just navigate generals, and we would open, like there was some kind of configurator and whatever, and you would just open the configuration for all units, all buildings,
Mhm.
how much it
Right.
costs, what's the health on it, and
Cheater.
we would modify the fucking file and copy the same file to some other guy,
Uh-huh.
and we would know that he would choose, for example, a different civilization or country, and we would like boost up our country, like specific units, like they cost nothing, they produce in 0 seconds, and they have a shit ton of health. And you just play against him. He's like fucking shooting that tank and it
Pro
doesn't die.
players.
Like that was the first moment of hacking, and it was fun, you know.
Nice. Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments like that in the game development industry, right? Like again, software development itself is very, very interesting, but when you're doing websites and stuff, like I don't know, it's just not the same level of excitement to me as when you're like literally building 3D worlds, especially in VR, where you get to experience them like you're there, you're in this little world I just built, and you can do this really cool stuff
I mean,
you can't do
it
in
can
real
be
life.
intimidating to some people, I guess. For me personally, it was, again, since I was like, ever since I was in high school, I like, okay, I'm gonna go to fucking, like, you have this humanistic, realistic profile. Like, I went humanistic. I thought this easy. I'm not gonna complicate my life, shit like that. Then I meet a guy. He tells me about fucking web development. I'm like, oh shit, I want to do that. And it was kind of interesting for me because I didn't know shit, but I knew I wanted to do that. So it was, I guess, less intimidating than writing fucking Pascal, seeing the blue screen at the informatics. But let alone building fucking games, that was like out of the, like, I mean, for a lot of people, I would say it's still like in the impossible world, in a sense that you need to have a game engine. People don't even know that in order to write games, you need to, like, a lot of people think writing games is writing everything from scratch, when in reality you have a game engine which has a lot of utilities behind and under the hood, and that's kind of like the world of frameworks. If you take like back end, front end, and whatever, like nobody writes stuff from scratch these days, especially with AI and whatnot. And yeah, it's just it's an interesting way we like evolved over time, you could say.
Yeah, I mean, I still know people that like to build game engines in their spare time, and it's what they do for fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't like professionally for a business. I wouldn't start with building your own
Yeah, I mean,
game
you
engine.
got to make money. You got to
Yeah,
move
yeah,
fast, as you said.
yeah. But coming back to the kind of educational aspect of it, and this is going to lean into how we met as well. Is
I was gonna touch on that, but I was
ahead of you
okay.
there.
Let me then do it this way. Before we dive into all the topics, kind of smells like wine in the air.
It
I'll
does.
yeah. So I'll introduce the wine. On the table we have one of my favorites, which is Freedom Blend from Purcari. The other one was also from Purcari, Maluri de Prut, whatever. I don't know how it tastes. I think I tasted, but I'm not sure. We'll see today. Anyway, so I poured some of my favorite, which is Freedom Blend. So cheers to you, and thanks for coming over.
Thanks for the invite, Steve.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Hmm. I am always breaking the ritual. Like you're supposed to fucking yeah, yeah,
It's good. I like
yeah.
it.
Back to how we met. I think what you have over there, like the block note thing, is a symbol of how we actually met. Do
Yes.
you want to tell the story, or you want me to tell the story?
You can go ahead if you want to.
Yeah. So how we met. I still remember the days. Like I said, I went like back to high school. You had to choose humanistic / realistic profile. So humanistic is more like languages and shit. So back to my story, because like I grew up at a foster house and whatever. We moved locations from, I think, Nisporen, from like the, let's call it, north of the country to more like the center of the country, to Yaloveni. And we moved like to a village, and in that village they had an English teacher, but because of the lack of students they had, I was thrown in a class where they studied French as the first language
Oh man,
and
wow.
English as the second language. And I'm like, fuck, I'm downgrading. I need to fucking do something to keep up with my skills, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, like I'm spending my time obviously doing some extra shit. I bought from my own money an English book for the first language, which everyone else had. The people that were studying the first language, English as the first language, and then I started picking up shit, exercises, doing all these kinds of extra stuff. And then at some point, like the English teacher, which was checking me on the exercise and whatnot, she was teaching people the English as a second language, but she was obviously giving me extra stuff because I wanted to improve my stuff. And then she tells me, like, look, there's this teacher from Peace Corps. He's in Yellowvein. He's doing all these debate clubs and whatnot. And I think you should go there. It would be fun for you. And it's a way to improve your, I don't know, English, communication skills and whatnot. And I'm like, shit, this is fun actually, because all I have to pay is like the bus, take the bus to the center of Yellowvein, and that's kind of it. So you had grammar, 1 hour of grammar, if I'm not mistaken. Then the second 1 hour after that was debate.
Debate club. Yep.
Yeah, he was like the fucking judge, and he'd split the class in two, and then pick a topic, and then you had to be Connor Pro, and then at the end he'd vote whoever like won the debate of sorts. And that's how I met you, like at the debate club, because you wouldn't show very often at the grammar. You were just there for fun.
Yep.
You're there to crush everyone. And yeah, that's how I remember you. You're always on the opposite team, always on the like. I always had to fight against you or somebody
That's
from your
where the
team.
fun is.
Yeah. And that's how I remember you. And yeah, then we parted ways. We kind of went our way, and then here we are.
High school ended, right?
Yeah. High school ended. The grown adult life began, and here we are. Yeah, it's
Well,
been a while.
Steve, kudos to you. I didn't know the whole backstory, like honestly, and just hearing the experience you've gone through, and showing that initiative, coming out to Yellowvein, learning English, and honestly doing a lot of the stuff you've done. Like, kudos to you, man. Like,
I mean,
keep going, keep
just
going.
just trying to make something happen. Yeah,
Trying to not be mediocre.
try. Yeah, I'm afraid of dying of mediocrity. Like most people die at 25. They just wait 60 years to be like buried, and in most cases not even 60 years,
Hmm.
because of how stressful their life is. So I'm trying to make something happen. That's why I try to invite the best people, starting with Moldova, and then who knows, we go abroad, or yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I wanted to do a quick mention there. So the teacher, as Steve was referring to, is Tim Schneider, the American that came to Moldova and is now 12, 13 years
Is
in
he a citizen?
in Moldova. Not yet, but
Yeah.
he's working on it. He's a very good friend and a kumetro actually. So we're tied now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really impressive. Like, we were talking about education and how certain domains, like software engineering, can be really scary. And I think it's the role of the high school and as university as well to sort of push us and give us a quick idea of what things are actually like. And I don't think Moldova's educational system does that very well, right? Like you said, you look at Pascal in the 12th grade or whatever, and you're like, I don't want to do this,
you,
right?
you get punished right from the beginning, like right from the get-go. You're supposed to think a certain way, do things a certain way, go old school, don't get out of the fucking box, think like everybody. And you're basically, I would even argue, even when you go to university, you're basically trained to go to the factory. And that's the mentality,
I
like,
mean, that's how the whole educational
yeah,
system
like the
came to
educational
be. It was
system
part of the
builds.
Industrial Revolution to
Yeah,
train people to,
true,
go to
like,
factories.
yeah,
So it's
educational system basically trains people to be employees. That's basically it. And yeah, you go into it, you, like, I mean, at the time I wasn't, like, I was kind of the obedient person, because I kind of had to be, like, I had to perform well, get the grades well, so I make it to university, so I fucking get a future, right? So, and that's kind of how everyone thinks about it. You don't fucking fall off the rail, you don't go off the rails. You wanna make it straight, and you wanna obey the system, sort of. And the moment you, like, take a small shift, take a small turn, then you kind of are on your own, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where it's amazing that we met Tim because, like, as a teacher, he doesn't focus as much on like teaching English, which is his specialty, but he actually focuses on how is every student special, what is their passion, right? And to try to sort of, blow it out into a real fire, right? And I think that's super important, right? Like it was important then, it's even more important now, I think, right? Because when we're talking about industry, a lot of it is essentially again becoming automated more and more. We've been doing automations for centuries, right? Except it's getting faster and faster, right? Now with AI, we're breaking through whole new areas of automation that we just couldn't do before. So like thinking on your feet, like being creative, thinking outside of the box, being passionate about what you do, right? I think those are some of the most important skills you can have today, right? So yeah.
It's always been like that. It's just more emphasized nowadays. Like if you take just like if you take software engineering for instance, it used to be a lot of, and you even mentioned to yourself, like it used to be a lot of, you get like stumbled across and you bang your head over the wall in details, like you get frustrated, you start doing something doesn't work, you start reading blog posts, GitHub threads, Stack Overflows and whatnot, and then you fucking forget what you're actually doing. With all this automation and AI nowadays, you're actually able to prototype so much faster and actually focus a lot more on creativity, on critical thinking, on business, on what actually is valuable for the market, right? So I do think that's the good part of it. If we're talking about AI in particular, there's of course downsides to that. And shall we talk about AI since we opened the Pandora box and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean it's a big Pandora box.
I
Don't.
typically try to fucking ignore AI, and the reason being is if you go any social event, if you watch any show, presentation, even political speeches, even like if you try to do anything outside of your fucking job, at some point people will just start shoving AI down your throat. Like whether that's a software you're using, that's a social event, that's a video you're watching, that's like some people just can't take that. And I try to like have a decent normal conversation without using AI for some period of time. At some point, of course, we have to use AI because it is something which is impacting our reality, and you kind of you're in it or you're left behind,
I
basically.
mean, Steve, look, it's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
biggest discovery or technology, the most impactful technology that humankind has built since the internet. We had the
my
internet, and it
problem
was
with it
like,
is
oh, we
not.
can communicate now.
Yeah,
But with AI, it breaks all sorts of walls that we couldn't breach before. I read this definition somebody said, and I think it's fairly accurate. It's like we build code to function and deal with certain how do you say structured data,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And where AI succeeds is in a lot of places you don't have structured data. Like if you have structured data, you have databases, you
That is
have
my
an
problem with it
algorithm.
at the moment. Like I'm trying to automate some stuff because I have some AI server at home. I'm trying to automate stuff, and my problem is to make it deterministic.
Mhm.
Like it goes so
I
many
don't
fucking
think you can
ways.
solve that problem
And
yourself.
the way to solve the problem is first you give it a task, it gives you back a creative output, which is what you're looking for in the first place. And then you have a second pipeline which takes that creative output and tries to make it more structured as you need it.
A technical
Yeah, so you
implementation of it.
basically have a pipeline where you say, hey, give me whatever the fuck I want, and then structure this properly so I can properly use it. So that's kind of how I deal with that. But
So are you using like a pipeline of multiple agents, or how do you
you
set that
could
up?
either use the same like me, whatever you define as agent. In my case, it's more like a model which I deployed and I run, and I can just have multiple instances of it. I can request multiple, like I can send multiple prompts, I can do it sequentially, I can do it in parallel. Like an agent is nothing but I guess an instance of a model running, and you can just ask it stuff. And yeah, that's kind of how I look at it.
My knowledge of it is fairly, I'm not advanced on AI in any sorts, right? I'm trying to use it as much as I can, and my experience is, learning to work with AI. It's like, um, you're learning to program anew, right? You're not writing the code yourself anymore. You have to do something one level higher. You have to build the agents that do that job for you. And when it comes to agents, the way that like my understanding of how it works and where it helps determinism, and I don't think necessarily determinism is the biggest issue. It's the error rate, right? Like you want it to be reliable. Reliability is the thing that is critical.
But that's also part of the reliability. If you want
Yeah, yeah.
deterministic output
But think
and you
about
have a pipeline and it fucks up in the middle, then the whole thing is screwed basically.
for
Yeah.
sure. But like if it's reliable, you may be fine with it not being deterministic. You care
I'm
about being
fine with
reliable.
a certain percentage of error as long as I'm aware of it, as long as I know that this is the percentage of error I can tolerate, right?
Right. And that's where the you're building a pipeline. So again, what I've read and what I want to try and do and kind of learn more about doing is you build multiple like an agent is not actually one prompt. An agent or an agentic system is essentially a bunch of nodes. Each node is like a prompt, right? A custom prompt where that node does a specific thing, right? I don't know, it reads git commits or whatever, right? It has a specific job of what it does. It doesn't do the whole thing, it just does a small segment. It has a very detailed, specialized prompt on how to do that, and it has tools that it needs to do that, right? Read, git log, etc. And when you have an agentic system, you essentially have a bunch of nodes like that, right? Where like the first one makes up the tasks, the second one can like start implementation, the third one does reviews, the fourth one
That's more
thinks
of
through.
a, let's say, production ready solution where you have stuff like you're speaking from a already deployed production solution where you have stuff already in place and you just hoop your input and then you get some output, right? In my case, it's like an actual, like I do it from scratch. Like I deploy the model, I load the model in the GPU, and then I query the model and I query it through code. So I'm kind of building the agent myself
Yeah, you are, and
in a
that's
way.
super cool, right? Like there's some tools online. Again, want to get more into those. Like Flowwise is one. Where essentially, again, you even have a web interface on building those nodes and setting up those tools and building that custom prompting. And I think that's where really the power is because, like, we use LLMs and they're super powerful, but there's a limit on complexity on what they can actually do, right? Like write me an algorithm, sure, they can do that,
Yeah,
right, to a certain degree.
yeah.
But implement this feature, oh, that may be more complex. Like how do you deal with that? You have to keep account of
Because it
architecture.
doesn't have the business context. Like context is the problem. Like at some point context it becomes too big for the AI to understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So first you want to have the context, right? Which is why a lot of companies nowadays record all their meetings, right? Transcribe all those meetings. Want to have better and better documentation because that is the context that you need in order to automate your business essentially to a certain degree. Um, but also like there's too much context, right? Like you can't have one tool that does everything. Even the LLMs themselves, like it's not one algorithm it's not one neural network that does it. There's a bunch of specialized neural networks behind it, like if you use ChatGPT for example,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And depending on the question you ask, it will take a more expensive smarter network to answer you that is specialized in, I don't know, software engineering for example. Or if you're asking it health advice, it might pick a different network that is specialized on health advice. So like we don't see all of that complexity. It's all hidden behind like a chat interface. You ask a question, you get a response. Oh, this works, right? But internally, like you hit a limit on how efficient you can get something universal to be. So you start breaking it down into
It
smaller
also depends
things.
what kind of quantization you're interfering with. Because if you can run like a 1 billion parameters
Hmm.
model,
Right.
it's gonna give you an extremely fast output, but
All
extremely
right.
mediocre. Or you
Yeah.
could run like 13 billion, 20 billion, 100 and something billion. It's going to take a lot more time. Is like the difference might be huge depending on what you're trying to solve, but at the same time it might be not worth it depending on the tasks. Like if the tasks are small enough, the context is small enough, it doesn't make sense to use that kind of quantization. Yeah, I guess it very much depends what you're trying to solve. And I think a lot of people, like, to go back to the initial argument, I think a lot of people lack understanding of how LLMs work in the first place, and they think, and that's why you have all this fucking fluff and experts online and LinkedIn experts, entrepreneurs telling you coding is dead, you cost less because of that, you're gonna lose your job and shit like that. Like I'm thankful for everything AI gave us. It's a really revolutionized, like it really revolutionized the arena of technology and how we view like the whole tech sector in general. At the same time, I am so against all these trends, all these people that just try to, like, I guess it's marketing to a degree. So yeah,
It
That's
is.
the part I
Whenever
don't
there's a
like.
new technology, and like we've seen this again and again with dot-com boom, with a bunch of other things, and even if you look at like at a stock graph, right, like how that price goes, it always goes up too high, right? There's overhype, and then that overhype turns into over depression, so it drops below where it actually should be, and then it kind of normalizes. And you see that same, like a similar graph where an engineer, right, joins the industry and he's a junior engineer and he thinks he knows everything. And then by the time he's a mid engineer, he realizes, oh my God, there's actually so much stuff I don't know. So they go into the other direction.
No longer the case because
Yeah.
juniors are
And
fucking dead.
well, I mean, it's a different kind of world out there now, right?
It's rough, I'll say that.
It is rough. It's a
Yeah.
very competitive world now, and it's a very disruptive world. I think it's very disruptive for investors as well, right? Because it, like, I'm not an investor, so I can't really like say what they're thinking like. But what I imagine is like, so in the past, because things were more stable, you can invest in something and you can reliably predict how that's going to work, right? Like, what are the profits that are going to take out of that? Whereas now you want to build a software solution, it's going to take, 2 to 3 years to build it. But in that time, the actual development process may be, made cheaper. So everything you've done is already devalued. And somebody just built something, you've done in 2 years, they did it in 2 months, and they're your competitor, right? So as an investor, you're like, I'm a lot more concerned now. Like, I don't know what's going to work. Everything is very, very unstable, both
Yeah, at
AI
the
and politically.
time,
And
the way to scale software was more people. Like that was the
yeah,
only way. Like you scale horizontally, you add more people, add more hands, add more brains, and as a result, you build faster. Essentially, land faster on the market. You kind of acquire a monopoly when it comes to that. Now it's a bit unpredictable because you can just replace all that with automation. Question is how good of a job is automation going to do to the point where you don't have to babysit it too much. That's a whole new concept, which, like, back to agentic AI, I don't fully agree with the idea that it's going to replace everything. Like, yeah, you're going to do babysitting at some point. It's going to increase, like, if you streamline the process really well, it's probably going to replace a lot of people, right?
yeah.
At the same time, you still need people that ultimately take the decision, right? You can't just like, an AI can't tell you how the solution will look like because it lacks the context. As you say, if you say give me an algorithm, that is
Mhm.
standard practice. It's a thing which is recognized by AI uh, almost across the board. If you tell it implement this feature, well, how do you want this feature to be implemented? What kind of solutions you want? What kind of a problem you have? What kind of a scale your problem is? Like all this kind of details, it's lacking, and it's
Well, actually, that's the other part. So I know you've mentioned you're a JetBrains fan as well here. Big, big
yeah,
JetBrains
yeah.
fan. I keep selling them to everyone. We use Writer in Unity development. Super happy with it. Most of the time. Definitely the best IDE out there. Except maybe outside of the
Except
AI
when it crashes.
IDEs. Yeah, it doesn't usually crash.
I
There's
hate when it fucking starts for some fucking reason, just starts eating a lot of memory, and then it OMM kills itself, and then
uh
everything's fine. You know, typical Java.
Yeah. Yeah, you may wanna restart it some
Yeah, 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 yeah.
some periods of time, but, like, I'm curious, have you used Junie, for example, which is
I
their
have not.
agentic implementation?
I have not. I've used their, forgot what it's called, when they initially launched their AI assistant or whatever.
Yeah, I think they renamed that to Junie,
Yeah,
essentially.
so I used it when they just got it out, and it only supported like it had GPT 3.5 or 4
So now
integrated, but I was like, fuck that, I'll just use Copilot. Like ever since Copilot came out, I just use Copilot, and then if I want to use like my own custom models, there are plugins which you can hook up, and then you can just hook up into your basically open source arena of models which you have deployed in your server.
so Junie
Yeah.
actually allows you to use your local models as
No, but
well.
that's the thing. I'm not sure if they removed that plugin or not, but there was a plugin even before it was renamed to Junie. There was a plugin, I forgot the name of it, but basically you could already hook your local LLM. You would just point to your local host,
Yeah, I'm almost
whatever.
certain they just renamed that thing to Junie.
Yeah, yeah.
So it keeps the same features where you can hook up your
Yeah,
custom
but the
local.
problem with you hooking up into your own models is you fucking need to pay the subscription for that. That is my
Sure.
problem with it. Like you can't
10
get,
bucks a month,
like,
really.
why the fuck would I want to pay a subscription if the goal is to actually hook up into my own models when I can just do it without it by installing a plugin, which I think is still free, but I'm not sure. I need to check. Maybe
Well, the
JetBrains.
the the so the reason why you would want to do that is what I was saying earlier with the pipeline, right? So, and you were mentioning context, which is super important. Like it's the bread and butter to deal with LLMs and AI. And the thing with context is with agents, instead of you giving it all the context that it needs, it is able to actually pull the context itself, right? So
It's
those are
still
the
limited.
tools.
It's still limited to the model maximum
Sure, but the
parameters.
results are hugely better and hugely easier to use, right? It may take a longer time because it needs to essentially read through the project on its own, but you're not the one doing that, right? So now you can run 3 instances of JetBrains agents or whatever, Cursor, what have you, and you essentially just tell it what you want it to do, and you have this general context kind of giving it this is what the architecture should be like, this is the general tips, but then it's able to go through the project and pull all the context it needs by itself, right? So you give it access to documentation, it figures out your business needs, you don't
The
have to write
problem with that
everything.
is privacy. Like depending on what the clients you're working with, they might or might not agree with you using that. So that's one problem potentially.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, but I mean, look, if you're running local servers on premise, that like I'm
Yeah,
sure
if you're a
there's.
company who's deploying your own AI and then you kind of shove down people's throat that when they join the company, then that's actually beneficial because as you add software, it just keeps on learning and becoming better.
Well, let me put it this way. So, as a software engineer in this day and age, my recommendation would be to use AI as much as possible. Sometimes, fairly often, I find myself that, oh, I could just do this so much faster on my own. But I'm forcing myself to do it through AI because I need to learn that process because that is the new way of doing
No,
things.
but
And
sometimes it's
if
really
I'm good
stupid.
at that, yeah, sure. But it's, garbage in, garbage out, right? It all
Yeah,
depends
yeah.
on how you use it and, of course, the model you use, etc.
But
But you can get better at
I
using it.
almost have the feeling that sometimes I'm like, I fucking know it's not gonna help me. I'm just gonna waste my time, but let me try. Let me give it a try. Let me force myself,
So let
right?
me let me share my quick experience
Yeah.
of working with this. So like I built well, first of all, when it comes to AI and at least initially using these tools, the ideal use cases are something that is self-contained, so you don't need to deal with a huge project. You just okay, you build a tool, right? Something smaller, right? And so I built this tool. It was fairly complex. I would say it would have taken me a month to do it all by myself, more or less. Um, Rough estimate there. And I started doing it with AI, and obviously I got quick results. I didn't realize, some of the bugs initially, but it was working, and I kept adding more and more features to it. About a week into the process, I was like, let me read a bit more carefully through the code. Just realize what's going on here. And what I noticed is, hey, there's kind of the very similar implementation, like 3 different places. I'm like, oh man, that's bad practice. That's code smell. We don't want that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Repeated code, like the dry pattern and all that. So like, okay, so the first day I try to guide AI into, hey, let's reuse code and let's do these best practices, etc. And I kind of wasted an entire day.
Yeah, that's my
And it,
problem with it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But here, let me finish here. So I wasted an entire day. I got pretty frustrated. So, and I didn't really know the code, right? There was a lot of code that had generated, thousands of lines in a week of vibe coding. But I wasn't really familiar with it. And that's another part of like when you write the code, you know that code. You have the graph in your mind. So you can also easily go and modify the stuff you need to modify. Your context is way bigger than what the AI can do, but it takes time to build it up, right? You
Yeah, yeah.
build that in a couple of weeks. I built it in a week. I tried to fix it with AI, and I failed. And it was sad. Hate losing a day of my work. So the next day, I was like, I'm going to do this myself, right? I'm going to figure this thing out. And what do you think? A day later, I'm still, like this doesn't work. But now I realize why. The way I was trying to, improve it didn't quite make sense because I wasn't intimately familiar with like the edge cases each of those implementations needed, etc. So like that's why the AI failed. I was trying to guide it into something bad. That's why I failed. I didn't know the code. After 2 days of wasted work at that point, I'm like, what happens if I just keep going? Right? Like my expectation was always going to be like, okay, at some point, this whole thing is just going to
Desperation kicks
become
in.
unmanageable. So now I'm curious, what happens if I just keep going? Like I'm already halfway done, sort of, in terms of the functionality I want in there. Let's just keep going. So I spent another week. I built the tool fully, fixed all the bugs, all of it with vibe coding, and everything works. Yeah, there's some repeated code. Doesn't matter. It gets the job done. Does the user care if there's repeated code in there? No. Everything works. No bugs. It
No,
works.
I love that about AI. I'll be all the way honest. Like if there's like I don't need to know Python, Rust, or whatever. I can just
Right.
pick up any information available, feed that information into the LLM. It's gonna spit out whatever I wanted.
Right.
I love that about it. I love that you can craft stuff. It's kind of like Lego. It's easy to get individual pieces of Lego from LLMs and kind of put it together, which is what we call vibe coding, right? The problem with that is when you tell it to, hey, I have this huge puzzle which I built with your help,
Hmm.
but you didn't help with the whole puzzle. You helped with individual pieces. Now go ahead and change this small fucking piece
Hmm.
to from this to this. My problem with it, especially if you like the context, especially if you don't understand fully what it wrote, especially if you didn't even have the time to go through everything it wrote, is you can't exactly tell if it's going to change something in the process. And a lot of the times it does. A lot of the times it thinks it needs to improve some shit you never even asked for, right? And in the process, it might break some stuff. And that's my frustration because you want to change one line, which you could have done yourself, but because you are lazy enough, maybe you ran into desperation mode, caveman mode, you kind of started throwing prompts at it in the same context window. It started hallucinating and you started drifting, and you end up fucking breaking your project which used to work. It only had one small thing which needed fixing, right?
What I can attest from my experience is, a few hundred prompts probably over a couple of weeks, $40 of tokens in. I never rolled back one thing. It never broke one thing. This is the power of the agents. I had the very similar experience what you're saying when dealing with the LLM directly.
Yeah.
But when you use it as an agent, it's able to go in and very surgically do only the thing it needs to do. It also tests it itself to some degree, right? Depending on the environment you have. And it's able to, like, again, I was very, very impressed. Like 2 weeks of I just kept all that work and it got the job done. That was super impressive, right? And it saved me 2 weeks. I could have done this manually. It would have taken me a whole month, right? So $40 for 2 weeks of my time, that's a huge deal, right? And all of that is happening in the background while I'm actually be able to focus on some other stuff, right? A lot of this is just happening. Like I give it a task, it can spend 20 minutes on one prompt I give it because it spends the first 15 minutes gathering the exact context that it needs. That is the power of agents, right? And then it just does the actual editing happens in the last 10% of the time.
I guess the powerful stuff is you don't use like one. It's kind of a multi pipeline. Like instead of you using the same LLM, you're using maybe the same LLM or maybe different LLMs in a pipeline, and then your input goes through this pipeline, and in the end the result is, as you said, like surgically perfect, well, to a degree.
Yeah, and that's why you
Yeah.
pay the subscription, right? Is because you get
Is that
more than
cursor or
just.
something else?
I'm only getting familiar with Cursor, but I imagine it works in a fairly similar way, but a bit more extensible, where you can actually have multiple agents you sort of build out yourself with custom prompts and all that. But with Junie, at least with the JetBrains, it's usually like one agent. You get to choose what the LLM is, right? Or you can run it on a premised LLM, or you can even have like a decision tree where, hey, if something is simpler, use my local LLM. For something more complex, use ChatGPT or Claude, whatever. By the way, I hear people are really impressed with the Claude Code, which again does similar things. Like the powerful thing about it, I think most people are just familiar with the LLM concept and like, hey, this is magic, this works. But the LLM itself is just like a little building block. And the actual pipeline, the actual tool that gives you amazing results, is a bunch of different LLM steps, each with a dedicated role. Of okay, you have this huge task. First, we're going to break it down into smaller tasks. Second, we're going to do research on that stuff. Third, we're going to start implementing that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of the times what people lack when they're interacting with the LLM is just the initial prompt, right? Just tell it like a lot of people lack the let's call it patience to actually tell the LLM, hey, you are an expert in XYZ field. do this task. So
Right.
it's going to take that into its context. But a lot of the times you come to the LLM out of frustration, like you want stuff done fast. Context is minimum, and as a result, the result is also kind of shitty.
Right.
And I guess that's the problem why we get shitty results. But at the same time, there's like limitations with this as well. And I'm not exactly sure I want to spend that, like, because I'm a builder and I'm kind of born a builder, and I'm gonna die a builder, I guess. Like till the day I die, I'll just try to build anything that there is for money out there myself, although I'm using some tools obviously. But I'm not sure I'm ready to like, because yeah,
Why is that though?
I don't know. There's like lack of trust, and in my mind is always like, okay, how much time am I going to waste in the pursuit of looking for a solution? I don't know yet. And does it make sense for me to create my own automation? Does it make sense for me to use whatever's available already? And how much better is it going to actually be if I use this tool? And you try it, it's like, okay, fuck that, it doesn't work,
Hmm.
and you kind of give up. At the same time, maybe you haven't properly interacted with it.
Right.
Maybe you're using a tool which doesn't solve the problem which you're trying to solve. Maybe you're supposed to use another tool, right? Like there's various reasons for that, but at the same time, I haven't been able to see, like, it's so much marketing out there when people show you that they've inputted something and they've built something in 5 minutes, and I'm like, cool, great, I tried the same exact shit, it doesn't work. And maybe I'm using it wrong, or maybe it's not as good as people say it is. And yeah,
Like I said, there's hype, right, for sure, and I think yeah, you have to take into account the kind of the cultural aspect, right? Like we're in Eastern Europe, and I've worked with Americans for the last 10 years of my experience essentially, and I'm seeing like a very big difference in like approach and overall culture really. Like again, working with Americans, I see this thing where they're eager to do stuff. They're okay to fail, right? Like it's important to try something. And here, people are just like really afraid to fail. They're really afraid to go out there, right? And
pedantic
it's
almost.
yeah, and it's really ingrained in us. Like it takes real effort to get out of that. At the same time, like the AI conversation reminds me of like the post office. They introduce these little boxes. You come in, you press a button, it gives you a ticket, and you're like, you're number 23. Wait for your queue, right? Like it's awesome, very cool, right? We see digitalization in Moldova. And at the same time, I see little, grandmas and grandpas who come in. They're like, "Oh, we're not going to touch technology. You tell us what to do, etc." And I see that reluctance to adapt, and it's especially visible in the State Department, where again everyone is very, or like big corporations, they're very fixed to like this is how we do things, and they don't get outside of that loop essentially, right? Like that's their comfort zone. That's what they know. So when a new tool like this comes in, right, and it's like, holy shit, everything you've known about software and how that works isn't really relevant anymore to the same degree, at least. Now you need to learn this new thing, and it's overhyped, and you try things and it's not the same result. It's very easy to kind of crash and say, screw this.
I
I'm gonna
would
go
I
back to
would
the old
beg
way of doing things.
I would beg the differ, that I would say it's actually way more important to actually understand the thing which people say is irrelevant, because you get a lot of output from AI which you don't have to understand. Obviously, if you want to build a product, you're some non-technical person and coding is dead as it's advertised out there. You kind of build the product fast. Problem with you building the product fast and not grasping at least something from that is that you can ship, and you can actually damage your potential customers, right? So you need to be careful what you're doing with
I
the
mean, again,
so-called fast results, right?
there's a very different mindset, right? You have an engineer mindset, which is, I think, I got an engineer mindset as well. I'm scared to do something that, doesn't fully work. I'm scared to sell something that doesn't fully work, right? So I have this grand idea. The
You're almost
first
guilty of that, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have this great idea. The first thing I want to do is like I want to test it out. I'm going to make sure that it works. I want to get a prototype that kind of works well before I present it to somebody. That's not what an entrepreneur does. They get an idea and they go out there and they start fishing for clients without having one line of code. Very, very
Let the
different.
fucking client test it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's way more important to first of all prove that there is a business interest to it, right? Like you may have the best idea, but if nobody needs it, why are you building it, right? So you want to prove that there's a business interest to it. Once you get to that point, you want to build something quickly, right? And this is where AI comes in. You're able to build something quick. Of course, if you're doing like health software, you want to be a lot more careful, right?
It's
But
like, let's take Palantir.
right,
Like, if you're Palantir, do you just want to fucking ship anything without testing it? Like, potential people might have a fucking drone dropped.
depends. Like
Like,
they don't. I don't know too much about Palantir, so like
if
maybe
you're, let's say,
when it
any
comes to
kind
drone
of,
controls, you want to be a lot more meticulous. But if when it comes to just analyzing data, which is I think their main business approach, like yeah, you want to try and dare and do stuff. Like there's a Elon Musk is obviously one of the most talked about personalities for the last decade, right? And I think his sort of business approach where it's okay to fail, right? It's you got to keep moving. If you're scared of failing, you're never going to do
I
anything.
am to this day surprised how the fuck does he manage to have so much time to run so many companies, tweet all the fucking time, and like, where, when do you get all that time? Like, how do you manage?
Yeah, I don't
Not to
know.
mention the quality of Tesla, the quality of the rockets he builds, and but sometimes he says some crazy fucking wild shit.
He shoots
Yeah,
from the hip, like he doesn't aim. He shoots from the pocket essentially, right? So yeah, there's a lot of times he does a lot of stupid mistakes. It's there. Um but he's never stopped for that. He doesn't care about it. That's his point. Like he just keeps marching on, and that's the sort of attitude I think we need to have to a certain degree, especially now in this competitive landscape with AI. Like, you have to adapt. You don't want to be like working on your cool idea in your little basement while everyone else is advancing to the next era of technology. Like you don't want to be there. So you have to push yourself. You have to like really test everything that's out there. And yeah, maybe you get to the conclusion that, you know what, this is not good enough for, this use case. But for most use cases and for the most of the stuff you can do, it can have a huge impact, right? Like LLM itself, huge impact. A whole system of it, the pipeline, even better, right? And that's just scratching the surface now. Interesting examples, right? So there's companies that do marketing. Best company in the world. Have become a leader over like couple decades of experience. They're employing thousands of people, and now a new company that was essentially built in 6 months with a focus on AI with like 20 people employed, have the same market valuation as this, top company that has built a reputation and experience and skilled people over decades, right? Thousands of people. So how come, something like
it's
that
rough for
happens?
them because they're like Nokia, if you know what I mean. Like, they have spent so much time, they've been for so long on the market, but at the same time, because they've been for so long on the market, they've acquired, like, they've built such powerful bureaucracy that it's hard to fucking change stuff. And in order for you to change stuff, you kind of need to dismantle everything from the ground.
I don't think it's necessarily about the bureaucracy, although it can play a role there as well. I think it's about the mindset, right?
No,
Like you're
but by
just
bureaucracy, I don't just mean processes. I also mean people that oppose change.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, absolutely, and that's why the smaller companies are winning now, right? Because and like again, junior developers, they come in, they don't have the experience, right? But they also don't have the limitations that you have, right? You're used to okay, we don't do that, don't do this. They don't care. They just try and do it, and sometimes they succeed, right? So the most important thing of all is to keep trying, right? As long as you
Yeah, I
keep trying,
sometimes
you'll
look at my, like, don't do you have those moments when you kind of like your current mind and body kind of goes back a little bit in history, and then you look at yourself from the side and you're like, foolish. Just a guy who wants to try anything to make things work, you know? But that's the kind of energy we still like need, because you grow, as you said, you learn a bunch of things, and then in order for you to progress to the next stage, you need to unlearn the shit you learned,
right.
because it kind of blocks you to open your, to widen your field, to actually see the possibilities, to actually go out there and try, fail, try again. And it's like, I sometimes think my current version is better, but it's not always better, in the sense that
Trade
you,
offs, man.
yeah, in the sense that, yeah, you do know about more things, you have more experience in life. At the same time, you try to play it more safe, and you go back in history and you're like, I need more of that guy, you know.
Yeah, and you can bring that guy back, or not that guy, but you can bring the thing that you need back.
And
And
that's the beauty about juniors, as you said. Like, yeah, it's tough for them to enter the market because they are basically gatekept by automation, AI, seniors, and all that stuff. At the same time, if you compare them to seniors, they don't give a shit. They'll just pick. They'll just do whatever because they're starving. So
well, I
yeah,
think the thing here is opportunity, right? Like, if you don't have a job, you can't say you don't have opportunities. There's a ton of opportunities right now. There's a ton of things that are not built yet. Like just figuring out what that is, and keeping learning. Like that's the super important thing. As long as you keep learning, as long as you keep experimenting, and like I came into the VR industry because first and foremost, I wanted to explore. I wanted to do something that wasn't done before. So I started in the industry basically in like 2016, pretty early as it was kind of, starting out, becoming a bit more mainstream. And I think the coolest thing ever is to explore, is to do things that weren't really done before. It's you look for something on Stack Overflow and you don't get results because people haven't done this before, and you have to like rely on yourself and now on AI. But it's also you using it. It's also you thinking, how do you phrase that question, which LLM do you use, what is that process. And again, as long as you keep attacking it, right, you'll eventually destroy that wall, whatever's in front of you. But you got to keep attacking it. You can't like give up one day because like, oh man, right? Like if your core belief is you can do it, you have to keep attacking it. The thing about software engineering, right? A lot of people, I've recommended it to a lot of people back in the day. It was super popular, a lot of
would you
demand, not
recommend
a
it
lot.
now?
Probably, right? I certainly wouldn't recommend fixing pipes like others are saying now that, oh, the high paying jobs are automated, so you should go and learn to do something manual. Like I wouldn't recommend that. I
But
also wouldn't
would you
recommend.
say we at least need to be wearing more hats as software engineers?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. The top thing I would recommend right now, probably I would say, is entrepreneurship, right? Because again, a lot of opportunities, but it takes courage. It takes thinking outside
Yeah,
of the
but how do you
box.
explain people that entrepreneurship doesn't mean an easier 9 to 5? It actually means a lot more
Oh
fucking work.
no, it's horrible. It's
Yeah,
hard,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like entrepreneurship
Because
is
a lot
I
of people think, oh, entrepreneurship, I'm just gonna grab my fucking coffee, I'll come up with an idea, all of a sudden the money flows into my pockets, you know?
no, no, it's
It's not
super
like that.
hard, and you got to be
Yeah.
aware of it to some degree, right? Like you start a business, you fight for it day and night
Forget
because
about
that
fucking
is.
holidays, about
Yeah,
weekends.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You got to make that thing work, because if you don't, like nobody else is going to do it for you. So, yeah, 100% that matters, but um it being hard is actually the reward, right? Like people, I think nowadays have aimed so much for automation and comfort that they think comfort is the end goal, and it's not. It's the
It never
exact
was.
opposite, right?
Because if that's the goal, then everyone would do it.
Yeah, I mean, most people do
Yeah,
go
like
for
if
comfort.
you go into a process thinking it's going to be easy, then what's the fucking reward? Like if everyone gets the same reward, is it a reward or it's more like the
So
same for everyone?
yeah, we're kind of a few different things are kind of mixing up here. So let me give you a couple of examples. So I started running, very casual. I'm not a runner, right? I was in my comfort zone, not really doing enough physical activity for years, and I started to feel the consequences of it, physical and mental, right? Like just not walking outside and seeing people, etc. So at one point, I started doing it a few years back, and it was huge. Like I didn't expect this difference. Where I used to think, oh, I don't have time to go to the gym because I'll put it in work, and like that's the investment I'll do. And once I started, like I had to do it and I started doing it, it's like I became a lot more efficient at my job, right? Because now I'm like in a better physical shape. I get this better motivation, better energy. So I'm a lot more productive at my job. Maybe I don't spend that hour extra in the job like I used to, but I get a lot more productivity out of the time that I do spend in the job. So, but as I run, right, there the mental state is like a huge amplifier. So if I say I'm gonna run like a couple more kilometers and then I'll see how I feel, I'm almost certainly gonna go home after that 2 kilometers. But if I say I'm going to run, another 5 kilometers, I'm just going to do it, right? So the difference is how you start out to begin with. If you say I'm going to start out and I'm going to, make a company in a month, or I hope it's not too hard, you're likely going to fail, right? Because your mindset is like you just expect it to be a certain way. You're not ready for the challenges that it's going to bring you. So every time that you meet a challenge, there's going to be a little voice in your head that says, is this it? Is this the moment we go back home and like, cancel this?
Yeah, brain is accustomed to being in comfort, and
Yeah, yeah.
the thing is with like dopamine, if you like taste something, you do something you like, then it registers, oh, this is cool, this is I like this, I want to repeat this. And you like comfort, everyone likes comfort, so you kind of want to repeat that, right?
It's but here's the thing, it's all about a matter of perspective, right? So if your perspective is hard is good, right? And if you rewire your brain to not meet a challenge and say, "Oh God, why me? Why again? How am I going to get past this?" Right? Like that's a bad approach. That's not going to get you anywhere. Versus if you start out um, and your mindset is essentially like, I'm gonna make this happen no matter what. Like I meet a challenge, I'm gonna go around it, over it, through it. I'm gonna get past it one way or another. So that little voice that's not there, it knows like we're not gonna stop here. One way or another, maybe
As
this
with
takes a
that
day,
joke,
maybe it's a
like,
month.
hey manager, we have a problem in product, like we have a problem. And he's like, we don't have problems, we have opportunities. And he's like, yeah, we have an opportunity in production. It's the same
Nice. I mean,
here.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
funny joke, but it very much is about that mindset, right? Like, and this is kind of the thing I discovered, for myself as I started doing, a bit of physical activity, and as I did that, I accidentally ended up listening to like all sorts of motivational playlists. It was very random. I had, a few songs. It was a walking playlist, and one day I was like, Google, play that walking playlist, and for some reason, it heard running playlist, so it just generated its own whatever. And literally the first song in there, the first track was like, "You can't do it, you're a failure."
Just do it.
And yeah, yeah. So like
Yeah.
literally within 20 seconds, I went from walking to running, and like I've been running since, right, for the most part.
It
And
reminds me of, and like you watch some Andrew Tate shit, you immediately go fucking, I'm a fucking loser, I need to do shit.
yeah, Andrew Tate is yeah, not my favorite person. It definitely has a bit of that, motivational approach and like
You
Big
can't,
Brother sort of.
you cannot be motivated. You can't not be motivated if you're watching him. Like you immediately go, okay, he's kind of right. I don't agree with everything, but I need to pick up my shit, do this thing.
Yeah, the motivational
Yeah.
aspect I do agree with as well, right? But there's other aspects to that particular persona that, he would encourage me, right? Because I know it's coming from, from him. And I think most people, when they think about motivational speeches and shit like that, is like, oh, bullshit, right? We all know it's bullshit. Somebody recorded it, whatever.
Especially like the AI generated stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Jesus.
I hope I'm
Like
not getting
before
any of
AI, I
that.
could have at least like, okay, I want to listen to this. I want to motivate myself. I want to pick up my shit and do it. Now everything is fucking AI slop everywhere. So it's like, no, I'll just do it, without
Yeah, I
motivation.
mean, that's the price of like you get some, you
If you
democratize
you look if
technology.
you're looking for motivation to do stuff, you're already like starting on the wrong foot, I would say. Like you just need discipline, I would say, not motivate. You can't be motivated every single day.
Well, so here's the kicker, right? Is like I made this routine, right? So first of all, if you want to make a change in your life,
Yeah,
the only way to make a change in your life is to make a change in your routine. Nothing
of
else
course.
matters.
You
It's
you
your routine is
just
90% of your life.
read Atomic Habits. It's
Yeah, I
everything you need
haven't.
to
It's
know.
it's on my shelf. I should
It's
I should.
really good stuff.
It's one of my to dos. Like in
And
my
it
routine,
starts
I
with
should
habits,
read.
right? We you just change your habit. Like you don't place the bottle on the chicken. Most likely you won't be tempted to drink the wine if you want to give up on alcohol. It's just that simple.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I have a lot of ideas that people mention from that book. I'm like, yeah, I think the same way, but I still haven't read the book yet. But I
Oh,
will.
book's good. Book's good. Recommend it.
Yeah, 100%. So, but the point 100% stands, right? Like you want to make a change, you want to make a change to your routine. That's again 95% of your life. If you want it to stick, you need to do it for a month, right? Like, or 21 days, I think is the more official term. Like it doesn't stick if you only did it for a week. So you have to discipline yourself into doing it for a month. And once you've done it for a month, it's it's second habit, right? Like it's routine.
I would even put it this way: nothing you think you own, you actually own. Everything is rented.
Wow, that's deep and philosophical. Let's
Everything is fucking rented. Your health is rented, your
Mhm.
physical shape is rented, the things you know is rented. If you stop putting in the effort,
All
you
right.
lose it. And the due is every fucking day. So that's,
Wow,
yeah, that's how I look at things.
that's an interesting way to put it. I haven't considered that before, but yeah, you're right.
You think you own things, you think you own shit, you think you own your house, you think you own your wife, you think you own, I don't know, your fucking house, you think you own the knowledge, you think your job is stable, you own your job, right? You think you own even your fucking life. But it's enough for you to slip on things for a certain period of time, and you no longer own that stuff. Like, your knowledge is irrelevant, you lose respect in front of people, you start looking like shit, your body starts looking like shit, you don't feel good. Like, everything is owned, in quotes, meaning you have to work for it every day.
Everything is rented, you mean?
Yeah, I said in quotes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, people have this concept of, okay, I'll just put in the effort once, forget about it, we're looking good. When in reality, you put in the effort every fucking day and you relax for one day. It's like I'm not sure if you heard about there's usually the saying with, like, the piano player. Like, if you don't play the piano for one day, nobody's gonna know. If you don't play the piano for a few days, some people from your close circle will know. If you don't play the piano for longer than a week or a month, then a lot of people will start noticing. So it's the same here. Like, you don't fully own anything in life until you die. You kind of rent it. And the more you spend time on working on yourself, working on the shit you want to progress on, the more you kind of have the feeling of owning it. So yeah, it's and about motivation, I used to like do stuff based on motivation. Like, I want to go to gym, I just want to hit it, and I want to pump some motivation in my bloodstream, in my ear, and then I want to feel like running, I want to feel like going to the gym. But then all of a sudden some shit happens, your motivation runs low, or you don't feel very well because you got a cold, or you feel like shit, you don't want to attend the gym. But then I start looking at it differently. At some point I'm like, okay, what if no matter what happens every single day I just show up? I feel like shit, I show up. Something goes bad, I show up. In the process, what happens is there's nothing which impresses you anymore, and what you've done effectively is you've eliminated the unnecessary need of dopamine, of because this motivational speeches are like dopamine. Like, you give your brain some good stuff and it's like, oh, this is good stuff. Good stuff motivates me to do stuff that I need to do, and this is what we call motivation. But if you base your entire life on motivation, you're going to end up losing in the process, because you cannot possibly be motivated every day. Like, there will be days when, especially as a man, you'll have to just push yourself, you just have to show up, you just have to do it, you know.
Well, to elaborate on your example, right, with my personal experience there, right? So yeah, I very much set myself the same rule. Like I want to go out and be there every day, right? And like I do a walk. Like for now, I either walk like 8 kilometers or run like six or whatever. And as I do that, right, I listen to these like motivational playlists or whatnot. Not always, but usually. And this is like one of the first things I do in the morning. Like, okay, I wake up in the afternoon. I work with the US and all that. But like one of the first things I do as I wake up is I go on these on a run, ideally. And as I do that, I listen to this speech. And with the speech, it's pretty important to try to to turn off your firewall, because usually when somebody's like ranting motivational shit at you, and especially if you're in a bad mood, you're like, shut up. But you should try to accept it as is, right, and not debate it, because the whole idea is like you want to take that spark and sort of let it fuel you. And the experience I've gotten from all of it is like, even on the days where I wake up and I don't want anything, and I just, worst days of the year, I go on my run and I listen to this, motivational stuff. Um, Whether I listen to it or not is not like a super effect, but it definitely helps. And by the time I'm back, again, it's 1 hour, but my day is just so much better. And it's like a reminder every day. Like you sometimes go to bed, oh man, tomorrow I'm going to do all this cool stuff, and then you wake up the next day and you're like, your head hurts a little bit, and you're like, oh man, I don't want to do that. And this is like the reminder. This is the like the discipline thing that puts you back in that race. It reminds you, like, oh man, you're here. You got to do your best every single day. Like you're not just gonna, push harder today and that's it. You got to do this every single day. This is how you get results, right?
Yeah, the beautiful part about when you're paying rent is no matter how fucking good your job is, your life is, at the end of the month, you got to pay rent.
Right.
And if you take the same approach in life, in the things you do, the job you do, I don't know, you want to do some hobby, you want to improve some skills and whatnot. If you treat it as rent that you pay every single day, inevitably you just will get better, because for you it's like, okay, I burned all the bridges. For me, it's the point of no return. This is it. I fucking do it or I don't. And to go back to Elon Musk,
Hmm.
I really like how he put it when he was giving the cleaning your house example. He was like, you could set a deadline for cleaning your house for 10 days or for 1 hour. If you set the deadline for 1 hour, most likely you will fail, but at least you'll get a lot more shit done
In 1 hour.
because of the mindset you've set initially for 1 hour, because you're just gonna try to rush it so much to think that you're gonna do it because that's your mindset. You think you're gonna do it. You're likely gonna fail because it's not feasible, it's not realistic, but at least you in the process ended up doing way more. So it's the same with any kind of goal you put in mind. Like if the target is small and there's no, like, your reach is also small, or in reality your reach is even smaller. But if target is big, your reach is also bigger. It may fail the target, but the reach is so much bigger that you've actually achieved success compared to somebody who has a smaller target.
So a couple of things I want to mention there. First, so like I said, I've had years where I didn't have enough physical activity, right? And every time I would get a spark of, oh man, I got to go to the gym, I got to do this stuff, I would have the hero complex, or like the student complex where I've partied all week. I'm gonna do the lab exam and the final night. And you take that sort of attitude with the gym and you go out and you put it all out there. And then the very next day, your muscles hurt like a mama dog. And you're like, oh man, what did I do? What have I
Yeah,
done?
yeah,
And
yeah.
your whole day is just like shit, right? Because like it is, you're all in pain. You've pushed yourself too hard. And then the next day is even more pain. And you're like, I don't know if I want to go back there again, right? Like, because you just push yourself too much. On top of that, like this is particular maybe to sports, but again, you go out there and you push yourself, harder. You get back home, you want to get some rest now
No, but
because
that's stupid. I would say, like, especially when it comes to sports, if you like get yourself pumped with a lot of motivation, you go out there, you do your absolute best, you feel like shit the second day, that's not a very smart way of doing it. Whereas, like, the way I look at every single thing which takes consistency is you wanna make this thing sustainable. And as you said, your mind registered that as fucking suffering. I don't want to go back to that shit. It recorded it as such. It
Mhm.
doesn't want to go back to that. If you make it, let's say, less, like if you take any kind of sport in general, like you take boxing, jujitsu, you take any kind of martial arts, they never they never like do 100% of that.
Mhm.
So if you, let's say, let's take gym, right? If you go to gym, I don't know, 5 times a week or 6 times a week, and you put in 70% versus if you go to gym 3 times a week and you put in 100% every single fucking time, most likely the person who does go to the gym puts in 60 to 70% will likely be able to continue that and sustain that, and over time quantity wins. So you can put in the biggest amount of intensity, but over time you're gonna give up. You're It's not sustainable, right?
This is, yeah, to some degree it's specific to sports, to some degree it's actually general. Like you try to do too much, right? And you don't do as much as you aim to do. Um or like you overexert yourself in a physical environment, right? And then you're tired and then it ruins your day and the next
The
day and the
same
day
goes with
after.
sleep. Like if you take software engineering alone, a lot of people think that if you just spend your nights endlessly looking for solutions without actual proper sleeping, then you're all of the sudden more productive. When in reality, that's bullshit. And a
Yeah,
lot of the
no, you're
times
not.
it's proven wrong, where you just fucking spend your entire night looking for a solution. You go to sleep, you wake up in the morning, 10 minutes, done. And it's like, why the fuck did I spend the entire night just wasting it, basically?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're young, we're stupid, we're like, we can do
Yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah.
We
You
can,
don't want to
and
give up. You want to fight it, right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
there's some nights and nights. Sometimes it's fun to push for a solution, and all that. But yeah, with age especially, I think you get to learn your limitations and to understand that yeah, it's going to be more efficient to get some sleep now. Working it in the morning.
I
Fresh.
really like how somebody put it, like you need to understand what kind of fights you need to pick up and actually fight.
Yeah,
Like if you pick up every single fight which comes your way during the day, you are going to be a very unhappy man at the end of the day, because there's so much stuff happening every single day. Like if you take work, hobbies,
right.
sports, everything else going on, you you have a family especially, you can't possibly pick up every single fight. So you kind of need to be smart, because then your
Prioritize. Yeah,
energy is limited, your time is limited. You need to make smart choices at the end of the day, and you have to make it sustainable. Like with anything that's kind of repeated in time, you have to make it sustainable. Otherwise, you're just gonna burn out and give up.
yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm adding up on notes here. So just to recap, right? So the
I love that, by the way.
yeah, it
Reminds me of the good old days.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't want to aim like, I mean, you want to aim high, right? But with specific things, with changes, especially, right? You don't want to change your routine too quickly. It's like one step at a time. You try to change it too quickly, you'll just be unhappy, right? So like I started by, doing walks and then,
It alters your entire persona, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly. And then a few months later, I started to run, right? And like over time, you can do those changes. But if you try to do too much at once, whether it's going to the gym and pushing yourself too much, whether it's trying to build 5 new habits in the same month, you'll most likely fail, right? Because this is all new territory. You're not grounded yet, and you fall back to the previous thing. And now you've lost the energy and motivation to actually do this stuff. So you want to be a bit more calculated in like just how you actually achieve those things, right? It's cool to push yourself, but you got to be aware of like, consequences. The second thing here is also you don't want to judge yourself, right? Like if you've set yourself a goal and you haven't fully committed it, you got to celebrate the progress you've made versus, oh man, I didn't do it, right? Because if you get into a loop of punishing yourself, even with your own thoughts of like, oh man, I did this, stupid thing again, and you do that again and again, like that adds up into you subconsciously hating yourself because you're not raising up your own expectations. And in order to be successful, like first of all, you got to accept and love yourself. You're not going to get anywhere without that. Nobody's going to love you if you don't love yourself first, right? You got to be your own first love, in a way. And you got to accept your limitations, and you got to, like, again, to some degree, be kind with yourself most of the time, at least, and understand, like, yeah, okay, today I didn't get to the results I wanted to. I'll do it tomorrow, right? Like, I'll make this happen. I did do this other stuff today. You need to celebrate that. And again, you want to avoid falling in the hole of, oh man, I'll never do anything. Like, no, that's bad. That's bad thinking. You don't want to touch. Speaking about Elon Musk, um, I think he's the one that said this phrase, and I absolutely loved it. Is if you want to get good at something, you got to suck at it first.
Yeah.
And that like it's such a simple thing if you think
I
about
like
it.
every single time I try something new, I'm like, okay, here's the process. I'm gonna suck at this. It's gonna make some shit, and then I'm gonna improve that shit, and then all of a sudden you look back, you're like, oh shit, there's like a huge difference between now and then, you know? But
Yeah,
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 yeah.
and it's like, so that was, hearing that was very sort of eye-opening to me because once I heard that, I was like, okay, you know what? That makes total sense. And now my mind is prepared to suck. And if
At the same
somebody laughs
time,
at it, I'm like, well, screw you.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
learning something new, right? So
At the
if you're
same
laughing at
time,
it, you're
yeah,
actually doing something bad. You're discouraging somebody from learning something new. So
true, true, yeah.
screw you.
At the same time, everyone is exactly where they want to be. And I'll say that again, like
Where they really want to
no,
be.
everyone is exactly at the place where they want to be. So if you're sitting at home, you're unhappy with your life, and you think you want to be this successful entrepreneur, but you're actually spending your time playing
Exactly.
games, doing a bunch of things. Maybe you do not want to be an entrepreneur. Maybe you just fent with the idea of you wanting to be that. But when you truly find out what it takes to be one, you don't want to do that. So in that sense, you want to be where you already are. So if you want to be the entrepreneur or push yourself kind of to the next level, then you will be there eventually.
I mean, this is a
Yeah.
point where you have to be really honest with yourself, right? With where you actually want to be. Everybody wants to be rich and not have to work for it. And like, that's stupid. Well, first of all, if your goal is not to work, like, that's a very bad goal to have. I mean, not work as a job, right? Because it's very fine to not want to work as a job. Like, you may want to have your own business, you may want to do other things, you may want to work on yourself, maybe, but you always want to keep working. It's like you said with the borrowing thing, like the brain is a muscle, right? If you don't push it every single day, you'll just get dumber and dumber. So like that's not a place you ever want to end up being in. So you got to push yourself. You got to be honest with yourself with where you actually want to be and what you want to be doing. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to understand what being an entrepreneur actually means, right? Like it's sleepless nights, it's stress,
No, but
um,
that's the problem.
it's a lot of risk.
You live in a connected world. In a, I would argue we live in a attention based economy. So the people that have the most attention slash garner the most attention are the people that influence how the society thinks. And if you take the average young male who is aspiring to be this successful person, what they see online is a bunch of fucking Bugattis, cars, people with like flowing and basically swimming in richness, and they want the same exact result, but they don't fully
They don't
understand
know
the
what's
concept of
behind that.
what it gets you to get to that point. And do you actually want that once you find out that it takes a lot more grit, a lot more sacrifice to actually get there?
Yeah, most people by definition end up mediocre. Mediocre just, it's average. It's like being like everybody else. And for a lot of people that may be okay, but I think again, first of all, you got to be honest with yourself with what you really want. Again, everybody wants to be rich, everyone wants to be like famous or successful, but they don't want to put in the work to get there. They don't want to actually do what it takes to be there. And that's the question you got to ask yourself first. Is like, do you actually want to do all this work and achieve all that? And if this is not it, then go back to the drawing board and figure out what you want to do, right? You want to be playing games all day and that's happiness for you. Go be a game tester, right? Go make decent money, at least for right now until AI takes everybody's jobs. And you'll be happy with that, right? And you'll be mediocre maybe, right, to some degree, but accept that, right?
Yeah, a lot
Or
of the times I ask that myself because you try to get out of your comfort zone, you try to push yourself a little bit more, then shit hits the fan, and you're like, do I really want to go and do this? And they're like, okay, fuck it.
conviction
I only
is
live once, and the worst thing that might happen to you is you actually fucking die. Like anything outside that is just it's either going to be a success lesson for you, a success story, sorry, or it's going to be a lesson. It's going to eventually get you to that step where you. But I would imagine myself, if even if I get to that point, I'll never be happy, never good enough. Always need to keep pushing.
it's not about life is not about the destination, it's about the journey.
True. You got
It's
to enjoy the
about that
process.
process.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
'Cause-
you got to figure out not where you want to be, but what you want to be doing.
that phrase stuck in my head, especially when I started doing legs at gym. Everyone hates doing that shit. And when you go to the gym, you try to rewire your brain and you actually tell yourself, okay, I am trying to fucking enjoy the process. And the moment you start doing that, you start being present with your mind when you're doing every single set. You actually not only get better at that, but also actually enjoy the process, because now you've told your brain that I'm fucking enjoying this. I'm not just doing it because I want to put a check mark. I've done
Yeah.
3 out of 4
It
or
starts with
whatever.
the understanding that,
Correct. Yeah.
the challenge is the thing I want. Like, I want to get, there. I got to go through 100 challenges to get there. Now, every challenge I'm going to meet on the way, I'm going to say, hooray, that's one more step getting toward where I want to go versus I just want to get there without, any pain. It doesn't work like that. Right. And this brings me to the last point I noted down, which is I think philosophically speaking, again, a personal philosophy, you encounter an issue, right? Or you don't like something, right? So you have three sort of branches. The first branch is you say, um, I don't want this, right? So like the first question is, can I change this or not?
Yeah.
If you can't change it, you gotta accept it. It doesn't help you at all to be thinking about something you can't change. Man, I wish the sky was green. That's not something you want to be dealing with. Like that's wasted energy right there. You gotta wire yourself to accept what you can't change. The second question is, do I want to change it? Right? I want, a better government in Moldova. But in order to actually change that, I would need to get into politics, essentially dedicate my life to this. It would be super hard, etc. Do I want to do that? Not really. I want to do some other stuff. You got to prioritize. You can't do everything. So then, again, I got to accept it because I don't want to change it. Not really. I don't want to put my effort in it. So that brings us to the third point. If you can change it and you want to change it, just change it. Complaining about anything doesn't get anyone anywhere, right? So bring that back to a daily basis, right? So you wake up, you go on a run, you're energized. You know what I noticed is we spend about half of our energy resisting things. It's like I get back, I start working, and the wife is like, "Yo, you got to take out the garbage," and you're like, "Oh man, I don't want to." Like I've just I focused here, and now I'm spending energy trying to figure out how not to take out the garbage. Like, man, just take the fucking garbage out.
Yeah, stop
It
bitching.
takes 3 minutes to do
Yeah,
it,
if you
right?
actually stop bitching about stuff, you'd be surprised how much more stuff you get done in life.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's not just the bitching, it's the internal resistance in your brain whenever something that wasn't planned or isn't, positive for you comes up, your brain is instantly, "Oh, I don't want to do that." Right? And I what's his name? Um I forgot there's a scientist essentially that talks about a lot of this stuff. Um you gotta push yourself to do things you don't want to do. You gotta again rewire your brain to be okay with that. You gotta wire your brain to constantly push yourself outside of the comfort zone. You gotta wire your brain to always challenge yourself, learn new things, etc. And then you're really living the life you can be living. Maybe you won't get rich, maybe you won't be a millionaire or whatever, a billionaire, or whatever your goal is, but you'll be happy because your daily cycle, you'll feel like, man, I'm really putting it out there. Like the biggest fear I have, or I don't say fear, but the position I would never want to end up in is, you know, getting on my deathbed and thinking, oh man, if I really wanted to, I could have done this and that. No, dude, you had your chance. You were there and you didn't do it. Right. So dreaming about
Yeah,
what you
make the
could
best
have
of it.
done.
Fuck regrets.
Yeah, exactly. Dreaming about what he could have done, etc. All of that doesn't matter, right? You were there. You are here now. This is the moment, right?
Yeah, like you can't control anything in this world except one thing, and that is your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that is the only thing you have full control of. And when you see a fat person, when you see a person bitching, when you see people trying to, in quotes, make a change, if you start first working on how you think, and a lot of people, in regards to how you think, a lot of people don't even know how to think. That is actually a skill, knowing how to think your own thoughts.
Hmm.
If you for a second stop thinking about what other people said, you like a lot of people are not even fully aware or conscious that they're not even doing or thinking what they really think that they think. It's something they've been programmed by society, by their peers, by teachers, by the educational system. It's just the thing you're supposed to do, and it kind of sticks in your brain. Your brain kind of gets used to it, and you get indoctrinated into something, and then you do something without even fully understanding or grasping it. So I would say start by controlling your mind, start thinking your thoughts, question everything, and maybe that is the path to some kind of a change. And then
Yeah.
less bitching and just keep on doing it YOLO. And Yeah,
Exactly.
I guess if you fucking end up regretting anything, like what's the point of living? Like if like I like how somebody said like the point of maximum danger is the point of minimum fear.
Hmm.
Just go ahead and fucking try it, you know, it's gonna be okay. The
Yeah,
best
exactly.
the best is yet to happen to you. The worst is you're gonna fucking die probably.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's a
Yeah,
mindset. That's a
yeah.
mindset to have, absolutely. And like you're talking about, knowing yourself, right? And essentially, again, being aware of your own bias, being aware of, how society or how, even individual people in your own life influence you, or like even you're watching a TV show and you got to be aware of what you're picking up from that, because anything you're exposing yourself to is
It's like
one way or
food.
another. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
food for your brain. It's you're influencing
You
yourself
are
with
what you
that,
eat.
essentially. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to be aware of that. When deciding who your friends are, when deciding what you watch, when deciding like when some of your life stuff, you got to be aware of that. But the important bit here is whatever you do, whatever your life is, you always want to invest at least a bit of time in yourself, right? If you're not doing that, you're just getting stuck in the same spot. You're the same, cog in the system rotating. You're not really progressing, right? Like you have to dedicate at least, I don't know, 30 minutes every day to, it can be to do meditation, to yoga, to read, to whatever. Do something that you feel is making you better. Listen to podcasts, right? Learn something new, make new friends, right? Challenge yourself. That is the biggest investment and the most important investment, because that is the thing that actually takes you from where you're at to the next step. If you don't do that, nothing happens. You're just stuck in the same loop, the same job, the same whatever you're doing. And eventually you get sick of it and you say, man, life is so hard and depressing. Well, do something about it.
As Trump said, if you don't want to be depressed, work your ass off. Like the thing with like depression and all that, like you don't have time for depression when you're just busy. Like if you're constantly attacking life at every single direction, you don't have time for fucking complaining. You don't have time for being depressed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
When you start questioning too much again, you kind of get lost, and for pulling this into
Just pick
sort
up a
of,
chocolate bar, move on. Depressions is fake.
I mean, not. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. Depression can be a very hard thing to get out of, and I'm not an expert on the subject. I've myself, mildly went through stuff, but not anything really, major. But I've seen situations, and it can be really hard to get out of it, and like a tough attitude doesn't always help.
And if you're in an environment where you constantly, it's like basically a plane defying gravity, right? If you're always pushing upwards,
No, I
it's
hear you.
impossible for you to fall,
So
right?
what you're saying is not completely false, right? So I agree to a part of it. Let me rephrase it like this.
Yeah.
When you tend to stop and sort of overthink yourself and life and everything, there is a good chance you might end up depressed,
Yeah,
questioning.
especially if you like at some point stop, you no longer recognize who you've become.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at yourself in the mirror too much, at some point it's surreal and you lose sort of
Yeah, I'm like
traction of who you are to
yeah, you
some degree.
get into this hamster wheel, you forget.
So to some degree, there is a truth to that, right? Like work keeps you sane, but at the same time, if you've gotten into a position where mentally you are uh very challenged by certain things, etc., um just working doesn't really fix the issue. More than anything, it actually just, like, you're escaping the whatever thoughts you're not dealing with. So you want to deal with those thoughts, right? But how you deal with them is extremely important. um so if you're just dealing with the thoughts by yourself in your head, there is a high chance you're not getting out of it, because of the way the chemicals work in the body. Because, like, for example, if you get into anxiety, which is tied to depression, right? You can start just spinning in your head without really being rational about your feelings and dealing with things. So at that point, you want to find help, ideally specialized help, right? Not just go to a friend or your wife. You want to go to a psychologist. You want to go to a therapy. You want to go to a priest if you're religious, right? A priest can help you. What I've personally done is I've started writing, and that when I was going through some challenging times, I started writing, and that was a huge help because I was able to, like, when you write, you have to structure your thoughts in sentences. When you're just thinking about it in your head, you're just spinning, and you're again, if we're talking about anxiety, you're making yourself afraid just by thinking about stuff, right? Like when you think about stuff, it actually gives you some of that same dopamine and reward, etc. So you don't want to do that just in your head. You have to get it out. You have to destigmatize, like we have to be able to talk about stuff. It's fine. Everybody goes through shit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You don't hide it. That's a bad thing. Right? Try to build connections, try to work on it. Don't just complain about shit. Look up the real solutions. There's AI nowadays, like there's no excuse for, oh, I don't know what to do. Have you looked? Right? There's always solutions. So you gotta, even when it's hard, you gotta like stay positive. You're gonna go through whatever you're going through, but you gotta work on it. It rarely goes away on its own. Yeah, you gotta keep working because that's what life is about. But you also gotta invest some effort into actually building yourself back up. And again, when it comes to anxiety, a lot of it comes from self confidence. If you're very self confident, you very often don't really have issues. Like I've heard Andrew Tate say depression isn't a real thing. He is
But
very self-confident, right? So for him, it
but
may
you
not
don't
be.
like, okay, let me, he also gave this very weirdly interesting example. He was
Mhm.
like, okay, I was contacted by one guy and he was like, hey Andrew, I wanna kill myself, I wanna commit suicide and whatever. And he's like, I agree, do that, but first get in really fucking good shape and get a six-pack. Try not to be confident after that. Point being is, if you try to just throw yourself at any challenge out there, you inevitably come, like, you'll suck at first, right? But you inevitably become better and better and better. And that in the process builds self-confidence.
Inevitably only if you don't give up. But if your starting point is already in a position where you don't have the confidence to keep going, you don't get to the point where you have a six pack. So
Yeah,
again,
but at
the
the
advice
same
itself
time,
isn't bad if you
you need to be conscious that nobody's coming to save you, right?
yeah.
Like, even if you're going to the psychologist and whatever, I actually think it's detrimental to go to them because a lot of them will just make your life worse, especially if you take the West. But that's just my opinion on it. But the point is, if you actually,
What's that based on though? Like why do you think that?
that is based on encouraging more mediocrity, like everyone around you is bad, you're the good stuff, accept yourself, love yourself kind of shit. And in the process, instead of you saying, okay, I suck at this, I need to work on this, you start validating that. uh,
Have you gone to a
let's take
therapist?
for
Where
instance the body positivity bullshit, right?
I
instead
mean,
of
yeah,
you instead of
there's
you admitting you're a piece
individual.
of shit, which eats a lot, and like you can't control what you put in your mouth, which is not hard to do, you start validating and looking for ways that actually tell you that this is a good thing, that you should keep doing that shit, and that's good actually. And instead of you changing, you should force or make other people comply that this is a good thing, right? And you start calling people body shamers and whatnot. Like, that's
So
just one
no,
aspect.
that part I fully agree with.
Yeah.
I mean, almost fully, right? I don't think body positivity is a great thing. I don't think normalizing problems, really health problems, is a good thing. So I think the West,
Yeah, but it's extrapolated in pretty much any area, like any, like you take anything which tries to either diminish or normalize a problem, that is an issue for me. And a lot of the times psychologists tend to do that, again, because they want to maintain their client base, and instead of them telling them the actual truth, they are complacing them, and they're,
and
yeah.
I again I agree. There are patterns that I don't respect, right? But I don't think everybody is like that. All right. And again, based on my experience, which wasn't with Western psychologists, but I do have some of the same concerns you're mentioning there. So I'll agree to some degree. But like you mentioned, you're a piece of shit, right? And that might have been as like a joke, but for somebody who has weight problems, they already have self confidence problems. If they start thinking about them as like a piece of shit, like that doesn't help. Like
No,
I
I
said,
agree that
punishing
bullying.
yourself, judging yourself doesn't help.
I agree that bullying doesn't is not effective for everyone. But I'm just saying that if it's something you can control, like why not at least try, right? Like you don't need to. How do I put this? Again, I'm because I did go through the fasting process myself,
Hmm.
and it's pure math, right? The less shit you put in your mouth, it actually works out, right?
Yeah, but humans are not
It's just calories in.
humans are not just rational people, they're emotional. And in fact, I would argue the brain actually runs on emotions and we built the rational layer on top of it, but it like internally it runs on emotions. Very often we understand smoking is bad, we still smoke, right? We understand overeating is bad, but we love it, we still do it, right? Nobody has a perfect diet and all that. And it's not even about like perfection, right? It's about like normal or decent or good enough for again your health, your body. That's what matters most. So you want to do a change, you have weight issues or whatnot, but it doesn't work if you're demonizing yourself. It doesn't work if you're punishing yourself again, even mentally.
It
You
depends on
need
the
to be
person. Yeah.
yeah, maybe, but I think generally
In my case, judging myself this way, I kind of hold myself to a higher standard than I would have otherwise if I would just
yeah,
try to
it,
pat
it
myself
works
on the
to some
shoulder. Yeah.
degree, but it also depends on where you are mentally even before that. Like I said, if you're overweight, you're
Yeah, but
probably
let's start from
already
the root cause. How did you get to that place? You weren't always
again,
extremely fat, right? Maybe you were
people
born with a
usually
condition.
overeat to compensate for other things, again, stemming from the
Y-
low
Yeah,
self-confidence.
but how do you get to the point where you have the low self-confidence to the point where you no longer are able to carry your weight so that you can get out of that situation? How you like is that maybe society influencing you, your family, your friends, your choices you make?
I mean, there's honestly there's a huge amount of factors that play into this. There's even social media, right? That makes even before you're overweight, it makes you feel inadequate. Everyone presents the best version of your life. You start thinking you're not as good as everyone else. Over years, this comes into a much lower
Yeah, but
self-confidence than everybody
is
else's.
that an excuse if you take for instance?
It's not an excuse. Is
Yeah, yeah.
smoking an excuse to do anything? No, it's not. People still smoke, right? Like we're not again, we're not fully rational people beings. Um we go and do emotional shit that kind of makes us feel
Again,
better. They eat
I'm not
that
gonna
they
judge
feel better because they ate something and that's their dopamine.
I'm not gonna judge people based on what they do or the results they have at the moment. I'll just say it's hard being a loser, it's hard being a winner. Like if you want to make choices which are
You got to
easy,
pick your own hard.
yeah,
Yes, that's a great
if
quote.
you want to make choices which are easy, then you're going to have a hard life. If you want to make choices that are hard, you might potentially end up having an easier life. It's all about choices, like
It's still going to be a hard life, but it's going to be a better life, right? Like it's going to
yeah,
be hard either way, honestly.
it's just like you put the same person in the same environment, and they end up making two different choices. Like one of them
So
turns completely the
the
other way
reason I
around.
mentioned
Yeah.
therapy, and for the same reason I'd recommend meditation, is both of them kind of like without judging yourself, they're more about accepting reality as it is. Like that's the very first step. People just don't accept reality. They're upset that the world is the way that it is, and they find refuge in overeating or doing some other bad shit. It all starts with accepting the world as it is, accepting yourself as it is, loving yourself for who you are, right? You got to love yourself. If you don't love yourself, you're not even motivated to do anything. So you got to love yourself even though you're overweight, for example, right? But then you got to say, okay, I love myself even though I'm overweight, but I want to be in a better shape. So you want to do this, but you want to do it in a way that is friendlier to yourself, right? To some degree. That is not to say that the, rougher attitude doesn't work. It works, but it can also be destructive,
But
right? For some people,
isn't
that
it
can actually
deceiving that
crash them.
isn't it deceiving when you say I love myself being fat at the same time I don't
No, no,
love
no. You
myself because I
don't.
want to be that.
No, no. I never said I love myself for being fat.
But that's effectively because if you say I love myself as I am, it means you're somewhat complacent and like okay with who you are at the
It
moment.
doesn't imply that you don't want to be better. It doesn't imply that you're okay with weight, right? You can love yourself and be overweight and not be fully okay with it. But if you're thinking about it and you're thinking, oh man, I'm in this bad situation, I got to go through this really, tough time of not eating, etc. Um, if you think about it negatively, right? The source of your energy sort of comes from your love to yourself to a certain degree, right? Like if you don't love yourself, you don't have the energy, the motivation, the positive in your life, and then why the are you even doing all of this for, right? So you need that foundation of loving yourself. Loving yourself is a prerequisite to having self-confidence. If you don't love yourself, you don't have self-confidence. Don't have self-confidence, you don't
Yeah, I
think
was
you're going to
just
be able to do
yeah,
anything,
my
including
only
losing
problem
weight.
with that is and at the same time I try to like yes, I wanna let's say promote self-confidence so that
Right.
there's this self-love and whatnot. At the same time, you gotta be careful to not step into the narcissistic terrain because you might start loving yourself to a degree where you accept the bullshit and you do not hold yourself at higher standards, and that's my problem with it. And I guess I I try to do that exercise of myself to kind of bring out the best in me to even be able to try things. But then every single time I do try it, there's like a threshold. Okay, I need to perform at this specific rate, otherwise I'm not good enough. And it's fine. Like I love myself enough to try things, to give myself a chance and all that stuff. At the same time, I'm not gonna love myself and just keep living in mediocrity. Like there's a way to do it, I guess, a healthy way, if you will. And if you over love yourself, then you step into the narcissistic
Yeah,
territory.
possibly, but
Yeah.
again, I'd argue those are more extreme, like edge cases, and not like most people don't end up there. I watched a video recently, I think from Mark Manson, which is called like "You Were Smart, dot dot dot. So what happened?" Right, and I was like, "Oh man, that's an intriguing title." Right, so I check it out.
Yeah.
So I jump in, and the idea is pretty interesting. I don't know that it necessarily refers to me, but I love the idea. I was like, when you're a smart kid in high school, you do good, you get good grades, you're learning shit, right? And all of a sudden you find yourself 10 years later, other people that you wouldn't say are as smart as you are, right? Sort of achieve bigger things financially or whatever other metric you have, and you're like, what happened? I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
the
yeah.
smart guy, right? And I think statistically, if you think, smart people are not the rich people, right? So why is that? And it actually comes from, to a certain degree, the way that you build your own psychology, where um, if you build it around you being smart, you have to be successful at stuff, right? So then whenever you try something new and you're bad at it, your brain is kind of like, oh, screw that, we're not going to do that. So you end up actually not taking opportunities and not doing things because you're the smart one. You're supposed to, be doing good. So you only do the stuff you're
That's why in
kind of good
school
at.
the assholes always got the best girls because they were at least
They
smart
weren't
enough to
afraid of.
believe in themselves. You
Yeah,
know.
they didn't overthink. They weren't afraid of failing so much.
Exactly.
They were
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to go out and do that thing. And oh, what do you know? It actually worked out. Whereas somebody smarter, like, oh man, I was thinking through the whole thing.
Overcomplicating and shit.
And by the time they go out to ask the girl for, one, either she's already been asked out, or two, you're just so in your head that like she's just like, what the hell's going on, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
like, yeah, being smart is not the most important thing of all. It is important, right? But it's not the most important thing. Having that self-confidence is super super important. Even take the conversation back to software engineering. What is the hardest part of software engineering? Like learning to code. It's not the math. There's not a
It's
lot of
the
math.
mental game. Yeah. You gotta stay
Yeah,
in.
it's
Yeah.
every day, morning to evening. There's just challenges and challenges, walls and walls. And if every time you meet that wall, you're like, oh man, I'm not good enough for this. I'm not going to get through this. I'm never going to learn this. Well, guess what? You aren't, right? But if you start on this path and you're like, you know what?
I
I take
remember
every challenge as an
the
opportunity and I learn to be better and better and better.
remember the junior times where like, okay, you hit the wall, you fucking almost give up, but then a year passes, 2 year passes, and you're like, okay, I want to learn something new. Okay, I know I'm gonna suck, and then here it comes, and you're like, okay, here it fucking comes. I just need to take this shit, and I know in a week or two I'll just be good.
Yeah, I mean,
You just gotta have that faith.
with time, you kind of learn to have it. I think with age, generally, like outside of the IT industry, you sort of learn to deal with this process, with these challenges, with the failures as well. You're not always going to succeed. You got to be okay. You got to be to a certain point excited to fail because you know trying is the most important thing. So again, from that video from Mark Manson, the recommendation was, as you know, parents or kids, like we want to push them to, you know, try stuff. We want to reward them for trying that stuff, and it comes dangerously close to, you know, rewarding people for just competing. Like again, taking the Western sort of philosophy there, like
No, that's
everybody
bullshit.
who,
Yeah, it's
like, yeah,
DI.
that's bullshit. We
Yeah.
want to be competitive. It is important to be competitive. It is important to get a prize if you actually won something, right? But also, as parents, you want to encourage everybody to participate, right? That's super important.
No, but it reminds me of, I'm not sure if you watch UFC or not, where they have this cage basically, and when they get pushed against the fence, they're not allowed to grab the fence. They kind of need to hold their stance. And at some point, you just fucking get punched in the face, but you can't do anything back because you don't have the position to do that.
Hmm.
And you know you're gonna get punched in the face for a little while until you get your composure back, and then you get to punch back, right? And if you just give up on the first few punches, then you will never have experienced the beauty of that success, which like it's right there. You just need to have a little bit more patience.
Yeah, man, like, you know, great things come hard, and that's the beauty of it. If they come easy, they go easy. Like you don't really appreciate them. The reward is in the process of getting them. It's like you get better. And I'll make this leeway into parenting as well. Like I think parenting is very underrated in this day and age. Thankfully in Eastern Europe, you know, child rates are still fairly okay compared to the rest of the world. But like again, this is the thing about priorities, and this is very much a thing about comfort zone. Like somebody right now is earning more than, you know, what our parents and grandparents has earned, and they're living the life now, you know, to some degree. And they're like, you know what, I can't afford the same life with the kid, and I can't afford to give them this life. So you know what, I'm just like not gonna have kids, dude. Like fuck are you talking about? Like having kids is literally part of life. You're somebody's son, you're somebody's partner, and you're somebody's dad. And like being somebody's dad or mom, like that's crazy. That's a huge chunk of your life. You get to teach them. You get to challenge yourself every day with those. Like those kids
Especially when you see your
will
mini you.
push you. Yeah, yeah. It's
Like you
both.
wanna fucking. I mean, I can't say that because I'm not in the position yet, but I'm just aware of that since I have my own niece, and I mean, she's kind of cute, but also kind of crazy
But you want to
sometimes.
be though. Like, can I ask that? You want to be?
I think I do wanna, but I'll be all the way honest. It's kind of crazy and wild nowadays with finding partners, right?
Hmm.
And you got to be very careful with how you do that because you can't fuck up your life. You got to be smart about that, especially if you're in the West. Like when it comes to Moldova, we're kind of safe, right? You don't have regulations which fucks up your life. But if you're in the West, in particular in the US,
What
getting married
regulations?
getting married is just not advantageous to any degree, right? So
How so?
how so? I get married, and then what? Like, well, what am I getting?
What do you mean? What
I
are
can tell you huge, I can give you a lot of fucking risks that I get if I get married. Like, I don't need to get married in order to have a kid, right?
but why wouldn't you?
Why would I? Why would I sleep in the bed with the government at any point in time? The government comes in and says you fucking owe half of your shit to the woman who doesn't give a shit about you, who slept with another man maybe, who maybe like Like what's the advantage to
I
that?
mean, Steve, look, if you're
Yeah, yeah.
concerned about that specific thing, there are like prenups, right, where you can
Yeah, but even
essentially agree
prenups,
that if
you can
something
break
like that
prenups. If you have a
happens,
good lawyer, you can fuck the prenup. Like you could say that that wasn't consensual. You could like there's a lot of ways to fucking go around prenups.
look, where there's a will, there's a way, right? So, like, I hear your concerns, but if I think marriage is essential because it's a commitment, honestly, for
Yeah, but the
life.
problem with that is what are the prospects, right? Your prospects are basically women that have been indoctrinated into feminism for more than 30 years. So those are your prospects. Now, like what are your choices, right? You want to go there and jump with a parachute and the guy at the plane tells you it's going to take off in 10% of the cases, would you jump? Probably not. If you say you want to be smart and educated and make an educated decision, then the pool of those candidates will be likely way smaller, right? And then you have to kind of make a hard choice, and you either have to be very selective, which limits your pool very significantly, or you kind of need to like uh, fall short under this thing called happy wife happy life, right? And you kind of end up being the pussy in the family, and she carries the pants, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing here, right?
I I
Like I
think
don't want to find
I think
myself
that applies either way
I
with
don't
the
want to
happy
find
life,
myself being
happy.
pussified. So that's why the fucking this is a challenge, right?
So look, Steve, first of all, any partnership, right, with
I don't
your
think it's a
partner,
partnership in the first place.
why not?
I don't think it's a 50-50 partnership. Like when you ask a girl what kind of a man she wants, what does she describe?
Depends on
She
the
says, I
girl.
want him to be taller, richer, smarter, more charismatic, more intelligent, more
Sure.
this, more that. Is that a partnership or is that a superior version of what the woman is? So
I don't look at
if she describes a superior version of what she is, how the fuck is that a partnership?
why is that superior to her.
I mean,
Like, it's
smarter, stronger, taller, all that
are
shit.
you saying she can't be smart or she can't be charismatic
I am
or
saying what women look for generally are superior in almost every single regard. So they want a man that's smarter than them, that's taller than them, that's more intelligent than them. That's not to say they are not those things, but they will look for at least equal or higher. That is just a fact.
I think you should also look for equal or higher,
I no that
in a woman and
that's the
partners and
problem. Like
friends and everybody,
no,
right? You want
that's the problem. Like a Jay-Z or like a top tier man would happily date a fucking McDonald's woman. A Beyonce type of woman will never fucking date a McDonald's guy. And that's what I just explained. Like there's this dynamic where women date up, men can date down. And if like the more qualified you are, that's why the more qualified a woman is, meaning more degrees,
yeah,
more
but
studies, more everything, the harder it is for her
women
to get a
dating
man.
up and mating and guys dating down is actually the same thing. In both cases, the guy is above the girl in these patterns,
Yeah,
right?
but why is that? So if
Well,
the
I
guy
will argue in this case women are smarter because you want your partner to be as
no,
smart
I
or
do
smarter
agree.
than
You
you,
want your
or at least you should try for that. You
if
should
your
aim for that.
partner is stupider than you, weaker than you, and not wealthier than you, most likely you fucked up as a woman, right? So the reason I said that woman wants that, on average, you register on a dating app, you ask 100 women what they want, they'll fucking mention these three things at least. Then that tells you that that's not a partnership. That tells you that you need to be on point on every single aspect of your life. You need to be fit, you need to be smart, you need to be rich to a degree, and you need to be on point on every fucking single aspect of your life. If you're not, most likely you'll be put to the side or you'll have a position of a role. And if you want to be the person for a relationship, you can't treat the woman as equal slash partner, right? You gotta be step in as the superior. You take the fucking role. There's even like this thing where women step in relationships and they say they want a leader, right? But a leader means that she's the follower, right? But whenever the time comes that she's supposed to follow you, it's and the other funny thing is women will happily fucking like wear a dress code for some fucking job which doesn't give a fuck about their life and prioritize career over their husband that is in some cases there to put their life on the line, right? And I just look at that and I don't see equality in that. I don't see a partnership, right? So the way I come in and think about it is I come in as the superior and I just fucking need to perform, right? So men have to perform. That's my opinion. And if you don't perform, unfortunately for you, somebody else will. You'll be left behind.
I mean, yeah, sure, men need to perform, but I don't think I wouldn't think about it as the superior sort of.
But I don't see them as equal
Why not?
because they're not. Like
So
you
women are not equal to men.
in what
How?
sense? Like define equality.
Well, you're the one that said they're not equal. So in what sense
I
are they not
explained
equal?
like the reason why when I enter a relationship, the reason I don't see the woman that is in that relationship as equal as partner, as people like to call it, is
Hmm.
because if you ask a woman what is she looking for in a man, and if I happen to have matched that criteria, is someone who is not equal. By definition, if I was her equal or less than, I would have not been attractive. I would have been average, right? And by definition, if I am attracted to her, then it automatically means I am at least as good as her or better because that's what they're attracted to, right?
I kind of feel like I mean, first of all, disclaimer: I haven't been in the dating game for a while. I'm married for a while now, two
Yeah,
kids and
yeah.
all
No,
that.
it's crazy out there. That's why, like,
Sure, and
I'd
I
love to
hear
be a
you.
dad. I'd love to be a dad to answer
I
your
hear
question.
you,
Yeah.
but well, first of all, when with the terminology, so partner doesn't mean equal, right? Partner is a very important keyword though, because it's actually you don't realize how important this is until you have kids, because when you have kids, you have a family, you have a job, you have a project that you're doing in common, right? And you're partners in that. It doesn't mean equal partners. It doesn't mean you're doing everything equally, right? Everybody has their own duties. In our case, I'm lucky enough to have my wife as a stay-at-home mom, and I think that is a very, very lucky position to be in for my kids to be at home, most of
No,
the
but
time.
I'll tell you what. If it was the other way around and she wouldn't be a stay-at-home mom, most likely in a few years your relationship or even marriage would have been ruined. Because what happens a lot of the times is you have women which prioritize career. What happens in the process is they end up either not having a kid because they prioritize the career, or if they do have a kid, most likely it leads to fucking failure. Because if you have, like, let's be all the way honest, like most industries out there which are the most highly paid industries, like software engineering and whatever other industry
Hmm.
which is highly paid, are dominated by men. Like we live in a patriarchy, meaning
Sure.
dominated by men, meaning if you are a woman who is career oriented and you've been indoctrinated into that, and that's what feminism does, then most likely you'll prioritize that and you'll have to go out there, compete with men. In the process, you become more assertive, more masculine, more combative. You come back home, you fucking quarrel with your husband. You basically behave like a man, except you got a pussy. So in that case, a lot of relationships slash marriages tend to fail,
I
right?
mean, is it set in stone that women
So
can't
yes, you definitely are
be?
lucky. You definitely are lucky because that is
Yeah, but
less. Like I even tell my brother the same thing. Like I think you got a good one. You should keep her. She's an amazing
dude,
wife.
I married my
Yeah.
wife. She started working way before I did. Like the
No,
first
but
first couple of years of us dating, we'd go out to a restaurant and she'd be the one to pay the bill. I didn't feel very masculine at that point, to
no,
be
but what
honest.
I'm
But
trying to say is even if women do that, it's a temporary elective thing. So a job for a woman is elective, meaning it might be a temporary situation. Maybe she lives with her parents a little bit and now she's gotten out and she has a job until potentially she finds that partner, right? But for us, for men, we don't have a fucking choice. Like there's burden of performance on us, right?
mhm.
If you do not work as a man, you will lose your fucking wife guaranteed. Like try to do that experiment for 5 years and you'll see for yourself. So only dogs, babies, and women are loved unconditionally. We are strictly loved based on our utility. And a lot of the times our utility comes down to whether or not we can provide, right? It's not the same for women. So that's why I don't view it as partnership. I view it as I come here into a relationship where I have to bring my contribution. The moment I fail to do so, I deserve
That's
to
still a
fucking be left
partnership,
alone.
though. That's still a partnership.
It's, I
Why would
would
it not
call
be
it
a
a
partnership?
relationship rather than a partnership, because a partnership involves some kind of effort which is supposed to be somewhat equal, right? So if you have, let's say, a
It
company,
doesn't. No.
if you have a company and you have two or three co-founders, uh, the implication of that
Yeah,
is,
one of them might have 90% stock and the other one has 10% stock. It
yeah,
doesn't
but
imply
what's going to
equality.
be the relationship? It's good you mentioned that you might have a stakeholder with 90%, the other one with
Sure.
10%.
Yeah.
How does
They're
the
still
one who has
partners.
10% behave?
They're still partners is my
Accordingly.
point.
Yeah, but
They're
he
still
behaves
partners.
accordingly. But if you go back to relationships, to marriages, how does the wife,
What do you want in a woman, Steve? How about that?
what do I want in a woman? I'll just resume it down to three things. I want a young, feminine, and submissive woman.
Feminine as in feminist?
Feminine as in a woman that doesn't behave like a man. Yeah.
So like
And you'd
a
be surprised.
conservative woman.
Yeah, I'd lean more conservative. You'd be surprised how many women out there focus on their career. They think we give a fuck about their university degree. They think
I
we
mean, I
care.
do. I want a smart partner. I'm lucky enough
Yeah,
to
but
have a smart
smartness doesn't
partner.
necessarily equals degrees, right? You could have a smart woman without her
Not
having a
Yeah,
degree.
not necessarily, but I mean if
No, but my
somebody
point was not necessarily the degree. I'm fine with the degree. That's fine with me. Like, I'd accept that. My point is, women think it's cool to fucking flex with their degree, with their job, with their whatever, right? It's like me coming to a woman and say, "Hey, look how many fucking servers I got at home. You know how cool that is?" She's like, "The fuck? I don't care." Like, it. The reason they don't care is because it doesn't benefit them. So it's the same with women. Like, when they come to us and say, like, I got this university degree, I am smart, I attended this and that, I
you don't
got
find that
diplomas.
sexy?
I find that okay, but it's not a selling point, right? It's not what gets the foot in the door when it comes to relationships and potentially marriages. So,
I mean, yeah, from your
yeah,
perspective,
yeah.
right? Like I for example appreciate a partner who is smart, right? And I want to have a smart
It depends
conversation
how
with.
you view smart. Like, because if when you say smart, do you view that as in, I want this woman to have her contribution to the point where, like, she's taking the decisions, or like, what's the motive when
I'm
you
not
say smart?
implying that.
It's just for a conversation.
I mean, she might be taking well, I mean, I think we kind of should be in
Because if
agreement on
it's,
what smart and intelligent is. That doesn't necessarily imply taking decisions. But hey, I want my wife to be able to take decisions when I'm not there. I want my wife to be able to take decisions in areas where I'm not as much of an expert in, right? Like my focus is work. So in a lot of places when it comes to kids, I need my wife to be able to take decisions there. I
no,
like
I mean, I'm
that's
not
what
gonna
a
say
partner
that I'm an
that's what a
expert.
partner means, right?
No,
And
definitely. But more, I meant, like, when you say university, you imply some kind of intelligence where you talk about, like, if you want to have a conversation with your wife that's not boring and that is not grotesque and Shrek like, it's not necessarily requiring to have a degree, right? You could have an extremely eloquent discussion with a person who successfully just graduated high school. She is, I would say, good enough,
sure.
and it doesn't need to be to, like, she doesn't have to attend a university degree where she's taught about
Yeah, but why would like you kind of still mention the university degree as like a
especially,
bad thing, right? And
I am mentioning it as a bad thing, not necessarily for Moldova, but if you take universities in the West, most notably US, those are more like centers for propaganda and indoctrination, right? So the more you go, like there's even this trend in the US, at least, where parents, like, try to not send their kids to school and
certain
university
parents,
because of the fucking what is it called, because of the fucking wokeism, right? So the more woke your woman
again,
is,
there is partial truth and
yeah,
ideas I do agree with you, but not in its entirety, though, right? So speaking like again, personal perspective here, I meet a woman. She has done university. She's doing a high paying job or high intellectual job or whatever. or maybe it doesn't even matter if she has the job, but the fact that she's done that university, to me means that she wants to be more than average. She wants to put in the effort, and like I respect that. I respect that about everybody, not just a woman or not. But if I'd be looking for a woman, that would be a positive thing.
Now, let me ask you one thing. Would you value your woman, your wife, more as she is now, with a degree, stay-at-home wife, versus with a degree, pursuing a career and trying to debate about that? Hey, I actually want to have a job. You tell her, hey, I want you to stay home because we have a kid. I want you to take care of the kid because we don't have enough time, right? And I'm actually capable enough to provide for the both of us. And she argues and she says, I want to fucking pursue a career because that's what I want to do. Would you
I
be,
would respect it either way. If she's a mom that wants to spend more time with
yeah,
the
but
kids and kind
would
of
you argue
put
that
her energy in doing as good as possible with the kids, I respect that. If she wants to, I don't know, invest in her professional career, I respect that as well. Now, my personal preference is, again, I'm lucky enough. I love the fact that my wife can spend more time with our kids because I want our kids to be as much as possible like she and I, right? So that's the direction I'm leaning towards. But at the same time, I would never say no. You can't do what you really want to do. You have to do this. Like I find that
but you wouldn't have to be in that position, is my point. Like if you naturally blend well when you choose the person in the first place and she automatically feels the stay-at-home wife and you're the provider, then you
let's
don't
phrase
have
it.
to be in the position when you restrict that for her, right? And what I'm trying to say is your wife would be a completely different person if that was the case, and your kid may have been a completely different kid, and your life may have been a completely different life
Sure, that's
because
fine
because
too.
of the result.
Consider it this way, right? So what if you're a millionaire, or I don't know, 100 millions? You don't need to work, right? Would you still work?
Yeah,
Okay. Why would you not allow your wife to do the same thing then?
because
So like you said, she doesn't need to work. You're providing enough. Why would you still not let her? Like you would work, that makes you happy, right?
it,
You're training your brain,
yeah,
you're
but I'm not
evolving in all
doing
the right
it.
ways you want to. Why would you limit your partner
But
from
my
being able to do
ultimate
that
goal
same
is not
thing?
happiness. My ultimate goal is not happiness as a man. I
Well,
I
okay, why would you work?
I would work because that is the ultimate way how we men gratify ourselves. Like that's
And you think women don't gratify themselves through work?
I genuinely don't think women want to work. If you ask 100 women if they want to work and they love to work, the majority of them would respond no. No,
Uh,
nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to work. The thing is, men have to work. Women can work. If you ask anyone, everybody's lazy. Nobody, like, even I don't want to work, right? But I
yeah,
have
but
to.
again, it comes back to again the perspective you said. Again, as a woman, I might think, you know what? I'm really curious. I want to be a psychologist. I want to be, I don't know, a paleontologist
No,
and
let her
study old
do
bones.
like
It
side
doesn't
hustle
matter.
shit. Yeah,
It
I'm
it
cool with
doesn't
that.
it doesn't matter what it is. I want to do shit, right?
No,
Like,
what I was trying to say is I'm fine with her doing her side hustle thing, try some hobby, run some side project and whatnot. What I don't want her to do is be stressed and be involved in this masculine world, which is very competitive, where you have to fight your way into things. Like, that's what a job is. Like, a job is not something easy. A job is stressful. A job is you having to compete. Like, whether you like to admit it or not, we live in a competition, especially as men, right? Like,
no, I do. Sure.
the best of us will only get the best, and the rest of us, the rest of the people, the men especially, if you don't fucking, if you're not on point, you're gonna suck. At some point reality is gonna hit you in the face with, you don't deserve this because you haven't worked hard enough to get it, right? So you're in a competition. I don't want my wife to be in a competition, which as a result turns her into a more masculine person, which in the end
I
is in the
don't
detriment of the
think
family, right?
competition is inherently masculine.
It is. It's a masculine trait.
Competition?
Yeah. Why do you think there is no such concept as matriarchy?
There is. There are literal.
Is there a matriarchy that stood the test of time?
Is there a patriarchy that stood the test of
Yeah.
time? They all
To the day,
crashed.
to the
They
day.
all crashed.
No, but still the most countries, not the most, but all countries are led by
Yeah, and if you look
patriarchies.
historically, the decision factor in all of that has been force, and males
That is
biologically have
that is
force.
the ultimate thing which
So
governs the
that's why
world.
things are, yeah, but I mean, it used to be.
It still is.
Nowadays,
It still is. Look at the U.S.
different,
Venezuela thing.
sure, but different kind of force. Very different kind of
I would
force.
say violence is the ultimate factor which decides everything. Like whoever society holds the biggest amount of force slash violence, then they decide everything. Like it doesn't matter if you're the smartest
I mean, sure,
ass.
power does
Yeah,
and all that, but again, doesn't need to be inherently masculine and doesn't need to be inherently violent.
but it
Actually,
is masculine
we've
to
had a
compete.
we've had a how many years? Almost a century after the Second World War of like essentially peace in the Western Hemisphere and the European continent, and like there was still power plays.
I would I
There
would
were
I would
still empires
say
that crashed, countries that defaulted. There was still competition
I would say
without the
the
violence. So the
simplest
violence is not inherently necessary.
the simplest I would say it is, but going back to the competition thing, I would say the simplest proof to prove you that there is competition and that is masculine is men love competition, they love competing, they love being the best.
You have not met my wife, man. Like she
No, but
loves
let
competition
me finish.
so
So,
much.
so men love doing that, but women will not even admit there is such a thing as competition. Women will not even admit that
Strong disagree.
if they got the man that they got, they outcompeted another women. They just think they get whatever they deserve, and that's just for me, you know. But there's not enough good men like you, for example. She for sure outcompeted a lot of other women, is what I'm trying to say. But she will never admit that that was part of the competition.
Not really in our case. It's a bit of a different romance story, but wasn't definitely wasn't a competition. Um, it's yeah, man. I don't know. Again, I strongly disagree on this. I've met a lot of women that are very competitive. They love it. My wife is
But is that
extremely
attractive to,
competitive.
like, if you ask any man, is that attractive? Unless the
Uh,
man is a pussy.
Females being competitive. Again, I never treat it as a masculine trait. Being competitive, like again, I treat it as to a certain degree a smart trait. You know, if I see somebody being competitive, I'm like, kudos to them. They want to be better than average. They're not in it to just play. They want to win. I respect that. It
But
doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman.
what if that competition gets in the way? Like she starts not competing with other women, but with you.
I mean, look, that comes back to the partnership,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, and that building that partnership is very difficult. It can be very difficult, which is why I said earlier, you got to be picky with who you start this endeavor with. 100%. I mean, with you there. And it takes time, right? Like, you don't want to just like take somebody and make a kid with like, no, that's very shaky. You want to build it out. You want to figure out how this works. You want to split roles to a certain degree, and you definitely don't want to end up being overly competitive with each other. You're a team, right? The whole thing of like the partnership and everything, you ideally, right? Not all couples
So
are
if
like
you're a
this,
team, you're not competing then.
not with each other, ideally.
But how are you? Like, how is she competing if it's not with you? Like, you cannot turn it on and off. Is
I
the
mean,
point?
no, sure. As a couple, you
You
compete.
either are competitive and you're at some point gonna spill some of that into your marriage, into your relationship, or you're not competitive. Like you cannot be
I
masculine.
mean, you're competitive. Does that mean you're going to compete with your wife?
I'm gonna compete. I'm going to be competitive in general, and I'd prefer my wife not to be competitive because it's gonna spill into the marriage.
And okay, so let's say you meet this ideal person, as everything else is just the way you dreamed about it, but she's extremely competitive.
That's already not ideal.
I said everything else is ideal.
No, I'd definitely refuse that because that's a deal breaker.
So you're scared of having a partner that is
I'm not scared
competitive.
of anything. I don't want to deal with. I don't have to deal with my wife, right? I come home at my peace, right? And
Okay, so
I don't go out there in the world to compete
here's my
and then
sort
come
of
back home and compete again, right?
yeah, but you don't need to do that. I don't know what that premise is based on, but you don't need to do that.
My
So
point is competition is a trait which cannot be turned off. You have it or you don't have it, right?
yeah, but again, like you said, you're going to compete out there. You're not going to compete at home.
No,
Why
that's
can't
bullshit.
she do the same thing?
That's bullshit. So if you
So you
are
want to compete with
again
somebody at
again my
home who
argument
doesn't want to compete.
my argument is competition is masculine. So by definition, if competition is masculine, you will not compete with your wife. And if she has that masculine trait, it means she competes with you. And by definition, that's a relationship that doesn't work.
That's a very interesting notion. I don't think I've ever heard that competition is masculine.
No, competition is definitely masculine. Like, I have not seen a feminine woman that is competitive. Like, for instance, you have an opinion, even if she disagrees, at some point she'll give up because she refuses to compete with your idea. She might say, look, I disagree, blah, 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 and she'll take.
All right, but psychologically, have you wondered who refuses to compete with ideas? It's people who have low self-confidence.
Well, I wouldn't say ideas are necessarily a competitive process, right? It's just a discussion. Like, I can indulge a discussion where my thoughts and ideas are challenged with a woman. Not a big deal, not a problem. When I say competition, I
Why
mean,
would it be a problem?
I never said
No,
it was.
you said it's not a problem, like it could be a problem.
No, I said it depends what the discussion is about, obviously. But what I'm saying is competition is not necessarily about discussion, right? It's about actual doing, actual like deeds, right? So when, let's say, you come home and all of a sudden
I think
she's another
competition
man
is
because
about,
of competition, then you don't want to
dude,
do
I
that.
think competition if you look at the like definition, it's about being better than somebody else. Period.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's it. Competition. Being better than somebody else. So you know, you're a man, you go out there, you want to be better than other guys, 100%. I hear you on that. Why would women not want to be better than other women?
Again, not I'm not talking about other women. I'm going back to
Isn't that still
going back to the
competition?
same definition. Competition is masculine. So when you're a
That's the
woman,
definition you're setting, but there's competition between women.
there is competition between women. I
So
never negated that, but that is different and that is not masculine. The only competition between women, I would say, is physical. Maybe that's about it.
So, in your understanding, the feminine woman would need to be submissive,
Yeah.
essentially yield to anything that the man says.
No, she can have her opinion,
But then she thinks her opinion is better, which is by
but
definition
that's not
competition.
competition. Like, I wouldn't say like
It's a
arguing.
competition of ideas, though.
No, but
Your
that's
idea versus her idea.
not necessarily. I wouldn't say that. Yeah, but that's not win. Okay, I have a better idea. What did I win? Because you mentioned like competition is somebody wins, somebody loses, right?
It's about being better than somebody else, but there's competition between people, like which is physical, and there's competition.
I would say the only
on
competition
ideas.
between women is physical, right? A woman is more attractive than another woman.
I mean, I would argue
That's-
that is the most masculine part of the competition.
Because every single other thing that a woman can do, a man can do better. So by definition,
wow, that's a strong statement. I cannot.
I can
agree
stay.
with.
I can stand on that. But the point is, if
Everything that a woman can do, a man can do better. So a man can can give a better birth.
let me
to a
reiterate
kid.
that. So competition between women perhaps is only in the physical realm, meaning a woman is more beautiful than another woman. Everything else that you would say is competition between women, a man can do better. So by definition, if a woman tries to compete in that area,
So
she's not really competing with other women because a man does it better anyway.
A woman raises her kids. Can a man do it better?
But I wouldn't even compete with that.
Nobody said a man can do anything that a woman can do, but better.
I would argue yes. I would argue yes. I would argue
man
that
can-
I would argue that single father households end up growing better kids than single mother households. That's why we have this high rate of divorces, high rate of single parents and whatnot. It's because of this vicious cycle, right? You have single moms, they raise single kids or whatever kids, and then those kids grow up without a father figure, without a masculine figure.
Mhm.
As a result, they lack responsibility, they lack discipline, and they go out there and they make poor choices. As a result, if you take a woman who raises let's say a daughter, she raises her daughter without a father. She doesn't like. There's no father to teach her how men act, how men choose women, what the fuck is going on in the dating space, and she may have had, let's say,
Wait, do you think
a
dads
negative.
teach daughters about dating space?
What I'm saying is, if a woman has a father in her life, most likely he'll tell her, look, men are like this, you should behave like this, you should be careful when you choose men, you should be careful when you open your legs, shit like that. which tends to be lacking when it comes to mothers, especially if those mothers will be also having jobs. There's no fucking time to educate your kid on that. So what happens in the process is you have single mothers raising single daughters, which in the process they end up choosing the same, right? They end up choosing the same douchebag asshole, which ends up leaving them, which ends up perpetuating the same cycle, right? So because of that, as a result, and studies prove that when the kid is being raised only by the father, they actually end up making way better choices in life, which happens more rare because if you take, for instance, the judicial system, right? When a divorce
They usually
happens,
side with the mom.
exactly. When a divorce happen, who is the kid going with?
I
Who
mean,
gets the custody?
I'm very curious. I have to fact check your statements. I'm very curious to that fact, but even if it's true, I'm curious what the factors behind it really are. I definitely cannot agree with the statement that or it kind of sounds like males are inherently better than females, and they can do anything that women can do,
Name
but
a
better.
thing at which men aren't better than women outside of what biologically a woman is built for. So
Fashion
exclude taking
design.
care of kids. Fashion designers still men better. Best fashion designers, man. Best chefs, man. Best. Okay, name something else.
Again, I need to do a bit of research. I'm not a woman. I haven't studied on these things. I just don't inherently believe in that. And actually, and you have to take into account the very thing of like how things end up being there. Girls from a very young age are taught to be feminine, like you said. Don't compete.
Not necessarily.
Don't compete.
I would say it's the other way around. If you take the
Nowadays in the West,
if you
yes,
take the
there's a
last
movement
30
of
years,
feminism.
like
Yes,
social media, Netflix, movies you watch, everything is indoctrination of girl power, boss power, like girl boss shit like that. Women can be equal to men. You can do the same exact shit, be crass, be obnoxious, and
so
expect a
let
man
me
to
agree
be.
with you on
Yeah,
something. I
yeah.
don't think women and men are equal.
All right, then by definition they're not.
Yes, but equal does not mean one is better than the other.
But define better.
When I say they're not equal, they have different advantages and
I agree
disadvantages,
with that. I agree with that.
right?
We are different, but it doesn't mean we're equal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, I'm not gonna say again. I don't agree with you that again, men are inherently better than women at everything. There are certain things that they might be
No,
better at.
I specifically said that everything but the biological traits which they're naturally born with, meaning physical beauty, taking care of kids, nurturing, and shit like that, right? Inevitably, women are better than that. Better at
Yes,
that than us, right?
yeah. But again, if you look at statistics, right, and you want to say, okay, men are doing better here or making more money here, etc., you got to consider a woman has a child, she leaves the work industry for years. She has two children. It's even more. Like
Yeah, but the work
she has been
industry.
taught from a very young age that you got to do this, got to do that, got to find a husband, got to make a relationship. In a relationship, who's the person that works on the relationship? It's not the man. The man
Who's
is
the
like, oh fuck it, I
person
don't
that
give a shit.
works on the
Why do
relationship?
we need to why do we need to work on this? It doesn't matter. But actually there's an issue. You're just ignorant of it. You think it doesn't matter. Right.
What's the issue?
Oh man, dude, have you been in a relationship? There's a ton of issues.
I know there is a ton of issues, but
Essentially any
I wouldn't
relationship,
say
even
that the
between
women holds the relationship all the like it's a
she no, she
bilateral
doesn't
thing.
she doesn't hold it, but she's the one pushing for improvements, right? And as men, we often think, oh man, does that dumb
It
shit
depends
again.
what improvements mean. If improvements means okay, I've seen
Improvements mean
this
being on the
lady
same
on.
page, understanding each other better, setting, figuring out what the common goals are and all that. Like again, the ideal situation you want to be in is you're a team with your wife. You're a family.
I don't think I am in a team, to be honest.
We have to be like that. I mean, dude, you take this project, you
Yeah, but
have your
a
kids.
team. Let's like, what's a team of two? A team of two means at least like. Let me maybe give you another example. So if you're in a team and you're pushing 70% of the effort, let's say you're, I don't know, in a business partnership with somebody, right?
Mhm.
You have you effectively have more money. You come into the business, you put more money on the table, and at some point your business booms, right? And then your partner comes to you and says, I want 50% of the revenue. Would you agree?
Is that like in a divorce situation
No, it's
or
not a
the
divorce situation. It's a business situation where you have a startup, you just launched your software product, you invested 70%, he invested 30%, revenue comes in, he wants 50%. Do you agree?
no?
Why?
I mean, we came into the partnership.
But
I put in 70, you put in 30.
that's what fucking marriages look like on paper and in practice. You come in, she's not your equal, as you said, and we both agree on that. But then she starts demanding shit, right? So is that an equal partnership where you can claim more? So
Why do
you
you
rightfully
think
said,
staying at home and literally growing your kids, right, teaching them how to be the best version of themselves, investing, I mean, dude, growing kids is like 2.5 jobs. And she
again,
does that nonstop. She has no continuous sleep for years growing kids. While you can't get involved because you're so stressed at work, and you are as a
but
guy.
let me ask you another question. What's harder to do, to raise a kid, or what's not harder to do? But yeah, let's say
What would you
harder.
prefer doing?
Let me ask you, what's harder to do, to raise a kid or to
Right.
be Michael Jordan?
So those two things are not comparable.
No, the reason I
If
ask
you want
this,
them to be comparable, you have to say this. What's harder?
the
Being
reason
Michael
I'm,
Jordan, let me finish.
yeah,
Being Michael Jordan or raising a Michael Jordan? Because when you say just raising a kid,
no,
that's a
but that's
mediocre
bullshit.
kid.
Like, you can't raise a Michael Jordan. Like, it takes
Of
effort.
course you can. It's a huge, like, raising the kid is not uniform. Everybody is different. Every kid is different.
Yeah, but
The
it
like, I
doesn't
want
matter
a
how you
smart wife
raise. You
so
might
that
raise the kid in the best perfect environment.
sure,
If they don't put in the work, at some point they need to carry their own weight.
yeah. And who's
You
the one to
can't.
teach them that if not
You
the
can do the best
parents?
teaching. It's still, there still is a chance if they do.
Yeah, it's not a very mathematical
That is my
function there.
point. Like,
You
if,
don't always get to succeed in the way you want to
okay, let
succeed.
me put it another way. If what's more, or what's harder to do, if somebody raises a kid, a mother raises a kid, versus, and when, let's say, when that kid reaches the same age as Michael Jordan Jr. when he was a kid, what's harder to do, to become the Michael Jordan, or the process of raising the kid to that point where they both had this same, let's say, direction to becoming one?
Dude, I'll tell you, like, I'll just answer this. I used to think raising kids ain't that hard until I
No,
have
I
to
don't, I'm
do it.
not saying it's not hard. I'm saying the reason why, when I asked you that, would you share 50% of the revenue if you had a business which was successful, you said no, is because that is the answer to my,
Well, that's a question about a
when you ask me about
business.
partnership. I don't think we're on a team. I think effectively I need to fucking wear the pants. It doesn't mean that what she does is irrelevant, not important, and I am doing
Yeah,
necessarily.
but you're not treating it as a partnership because you actually want to be the boss and she's the
But you
employee.
imply, again, you imply equality, which I don't imply. Like, you can't say that we're not equal at the same time you imply equality, right?
I don't
Because
imply
when you say,
equality. There's again the roles are different. So when you say equal, you kind of imply that they're the same. And in some relationships they may be right. I think there needs to be respect to
I
each
don't
other.
deny that, I agree with that.
I think there needs to be love to each
You do
other.
need to love your
I think
woman,
there needs
respect
to
her,
be
yeah.
freedom. I think there needs to be discussion. I think there needs to be common goals. I think you need to be a team and have things you want to achieve together, right?
What if your
If you have
woman,
different things you want to achieve
let me
from
ask you
your
this, what if your woman who you're married to, you have a kid, she says, I want to go with the girls at the club, celebrate?
yeah,
Is it fine with you?
I guess, yeah.
Wouldn't you try to impose, to restrict her freedom in that sense?
My okay, so yeah, I wanted to mention this earlier. My whole philosophy is based on I don't want to do to anybody else things I wouldn't want to get done to myself,
No, but
right?
what I'm trying to ask is, uh, basically, ownership without any sort of authority is slavery. So, what I mean by that is, if you are responsible for your woman, in some cases with your life, if anything were to happen to her or the kid, you'd put your life on the line. And
Sure.
then at the same time, you don't own the situation, you don't control it, right? Then you're a fucking slave. you are supposed to own the shit. You're supposed to put your life on the line, and you don't even have a say
I
in whether
mean, wouldn't
in
she
whether or
put
not she
her
goes.
line? Wouldn't she put her life on the line
No,
though? Why not?
if somebody comes with a gun in your house, would your woman put the life on the line or you?
Dude, I mean, have you seen Harry Potter?
what I'm
Like,
saying, what I'm saying is a lot of these responsibilities usually tend to go to men, and if you're
again, there's a
responsible,
lot of responsibilities that do go to the
but
man.
it's not
There's a lot of
50-50. It's not
responsibilities you
50-50 is
don't
my
see.
point. Yeah.
It's not about measuring it to a 50-50. Like, honestly, there are days that are much harder on my wife than what I have to do at work, even though I try to do my best at work every day, right? Different days. There are some days that are just so difficult with the kids, and it is what it is.
But try to
It's not like I'm gonna measure, how many hours did you work today? Oh, 12. I only did 10, or I did 14. So you no, dude, the whole point of being in a team, in a family, is you stop competing with each other. That is the premise. You don't compete with each other. You're a team, you're one unit, you're together. You either succeed together or you fail together.
but you need
If
to
you compete
succeed.
with your partner, your relationship is fucked up.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is you need to have rules in place, right? You need to
Sure.
have rules, and everyone needs to kind of know their place. And if you imply equality, that by definition means that nobody fucking knows their place, right?
No,
What I'm
I
trying to say
disagree.
is you
Your
come in.
example with the club, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know I know a lot of men are very what's the word? Jealous, right? So
It's
when
not
they
about
hear,
jealousy. It's not about jealousy. That like the fact that I trust the lock on my car, it doesn't mean I'm gonna park it in the wrong neighborhood or I'm gonna park in fucking Ukraine and let it be
well,
bombed.
it depends how much you
Like
trust.
I trust the locks on my car. I just don't trust the environment in which I'm gonna leave my car, right? So
Sure,
I'm gonna be
dude.
smart about it.
I
I know how other men think.
sure,
Yeah.
but I trust my wife way beyond that. If I'm gonna question,
No, but it's not about
anytime
trust.
my
Yeah.
wife is not like, I don't know where she is. Oh my god, she must be. No, dude, like, screw that. Get out of that relationship. Get out of that mindset. That is not a healthy relationship to be in. Your wife is not something that you own, is not a car you park, and you're not worried about somebody else hacking into that car. No, if you trust your wife, if she's your partner, right, then you're marrying her. You're tying your bonds for life, right? At good and bad, right? One day you're gonna wake up sick. You're gonna need have cancer in your fucking brain. You're gonna need the surgery. You trust your wife to be there with you and wipe your fucking ass every day as you recover. That is the partnership you want to be in. You don't want to have a slave
That's
that does something. You don't want to measure my 60% over your 40. No,
no, but I'm
you
not
stop
measuring.
measuring. That is whatever money I make, it's not my money. It's our money. That
I
is the commitment in a relationship that we make with each other. Whatever problems I have, they're not my problems. They're our problems. Whatever problems you have, they're not your problems. They're our problems.
no, that's idealistic. And again, I would love to
I mean,
have that.
that's where you want to tend to, and that's the kind of person you want to find.
Yeah,
That's
but
the type of relationship you want to build,
yeah,
and
but
it doesn't come in a day. That's
it's
why
not
I
a
said it.
basis. It's not a very solid framework for most men out there. I'll be all the way honest. Like if you go and date in 2026, you'll see for yourself it's quite ruthless and tough. And maybe this mental model used to work a few years ago. It still might work in 1% of the cases, but that's not the proper mental model to go in.
I
Like
see. I
you
see a
go in
trend
you go in
these
with the
days.
purest heart. You want that woman, you want to give everything. In fact, men love when we love when we sacrifice everything for the woman. We love for the
Yeah, but you
family
also
and
have
everything.
super high expectations
But
about she's not allowed to do
at the
this
same
and that and
time,
that, and she's not allowed to go to a club. And you do all the stuff you mentioned you're doing, but then at some point she says, I want to go to a club. And you say, oh, no, it's not your place to do that. And she
she wouldn't
realizes
have to ask me that, to be honest. She would know not to ask.
she should know not to even ask.
She would be in a relationship in the first place knowing she wouldn't ask that. Knowing
Different
she
relationships, different people have
Yeah,
different,
yeah.
philosophies and expectations. My personal philosophy is I wouldn't want to impose anything on anybody else that I wouldn't want done to me.
Yeah, but again, you're operating from a framework of we're equal.
Not equal,
On the one
not
hand, you say
equal,
we're equal.
fair. That is a very different thing from equal,
Yeah, but
right?
because we're different, the rules don't apply, right? We don't
Sure, they
we
do.
don't abide by the same rules as men and women. Like you are,
You define the rules in a
your
partnership.
performance is not judged by the same rules as a woman's performance in a team slash relationship, right? So if you fuck up in one department, the woman is not going to be held accountable to the same exact extent as you will be, and vice versa. So it's not true to say, in my opinion, that what I want, what I don't want to be done to me, I won't impose on somebody else. Like, it's fair to say that you, as a man, want to protect your woman from not fucking up by not allowing her to go to the club because you care about the relationship and because you know how other men think, and you're actually protective of that. And it's not like you're gonna go to the fucking club and, like, let's switch the scenario, right?
Hmm.
You're saying you don't want to restrict your woman to go to the club because you don't want to be restricted to go to the club. Is that what you're saying?
No, so here's an important distinction.
Yeah.
There's the way I would describe it is there's 2 degrees of empathy. The first degree of empathy is I saw something done to person X, I wouldn't want that done to me,
It
right?
depends what that
Or
thing is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like essentially putting yourself in somebody's shoes and trying to like imagine what they feel like, right? Cool. That's sort of the first degree. But the second degree is actually understanding what that particular situation means for that particular person, right? So, for example, um, somebody is getting chased by dogs, and you think, oh, that's fine. I'm not afraid of dogs, but that person is, right? And when you rephrase the situation is, and not that he's chased by dogs, but he's chased by something that he's extremely afraid of. Now, that is the second degree. Would you want to be chased by something you're extremely afraid of? No, right? Obviously. You don't care about dogs, but something you're afraid of, right? Something that applies in this case to you already, you like that matters. So take the club example, right? The first degree is thinking of the club itself, right? But think about the second degree. She wants to do something that is fun for her, that she doesn't see any danger in, right? And honestly, I don't think there's a lot of danger
I
in
quite
going out
frankly
to a
believe
club.
that's disrespectful to your men in the first place if you do that.
What exactly?
That you go to the club while you have a man and a family at home.
I mean, I don't know what exactly you imagine by a club, because there's very different experiences. Yes, there are girls that go out and like have
Like you
sex and
go
all,
to
whatever.
you go into a place where there's potential stripping, where there's fucking drunk guys, where you might potentially be drunk. Especially if you go with your girlfriends, girlfriends will fucking give terrible advice while you're at the place, like talking about your husband and whatnot. Like any shit might go down. Like, do you want to put your woman in a position where she might potentially fuck up in regards to you?
That's the difference. Is
Yeah.
I have like that high a
Again,
confidence
going back to
in
the
my
same, you
partner.
might have the high confidence that your car that you parked in Odessa will be fine. But what's going to fucking potentially happen is a fucking rocket lands there and it's no
Well,
longer
in
fine.
that case, like in that analogy, the rocket is a rape, right? There's like something
But it
forceful
could
happened.
happen, right?
Right. And if it were that my wife is going to a, I don't know, a violent club with only one other friend, I'd be concerned. And that would be a very reasonable
And
concern.
that's true to be because
But
you're
but
protective.
if you're
Yeah.
going to a decent club that has security and you're going with like 6 other friends from your work and you're having a casual night out with the ladies, why the would I limit that?
But you don't know if it's gonna be casual or not. She might
Well,
she
those
might get
details,
drunk so
those
fucked up.
details matter.
Yeah.
But no, but Steve, look, you have your partner. Like, the basis of my partnership with my wife is trust. I would I wouldn't, like, I don't know, jump in front of the train to, oh, don't walk here. I trust her to know not to go in front of the train. I trust her to in no circumstance ever betray the trust in the family that we've built. I know that she's the person that wouldn't do that. And if she did, then, well, I learned something. She's
But
actually not that person.
what if you
And then I gain, I go to build a life with, I don't know, somebody else or figure something else out. But the initial partnership is
but
built on
is
that
it worth the
trust.
cost for you to learn something else?
It's not, look,
What
I
if
have a lot of examples of
yeah.
men that are extremely jealous, and some have been left
No, but
by their
it's
wife.
not about jealousy. I
Um,
wouldn't say it's about jealousy, right?
why not?
like
If you
even
don't have jealousy,
even
if you
if
have
even
full
if my
trust,
woman would never cheat on me by going to the club, I would still think it's disrespectful for her to do that. That is my point. So if you have any kind of respect for your man, I would say,
but why is going to the club bad then?
because of, like, take the club, like what is like going to the club, right? When you go to the club, like what's the atmosphere
I've
there?
gone to very decent
What's the
clubs that are
incentive?
kind of chill. I've mostly sat at the table, had a couple of
It depends what
cocktails.
kind of a club, right?
Yeah, that's
If
why I
if it's
said
if it's a
if you're
nightclub where there's potential stripping, there's
no
potential drinking,
nightclub, but
drugging.
not all nightclubs have stripping. Again, if you're asking me to go to a strip club, that's a different question.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
has a very sexual.
But you won't know. That's the problem.
Why not?
Most women will just spin circles around their man, right?
Not my partner. Again, that's not the
How would you know?
relationship.
How would you know? Again, how do you know? You might think,
I trust her.
yeah, you trust her, but how do you know? Are you fully 100% sure that that's trust? Like in life, if like, especially
Look, I
when,
know one thing for certain.
yeah,
If
yeah,
I don't allow my wife to go, right? If I live my life in fear of what might happen, right? Not rationally, but emotionally, right? Because again, if there's a rational danger, like you said in Odessa, right, rocket might fall, then yeah, that's a concern I would bring up, and we would figure out a solution together that tries to attend to her happiness, maybe to go to a different club while also maintaining my concern. That's a very healthy, valid thing to do, in my opinion. Um, but if it's a safe club with, again, work friends, or a circumstance that I can trust, I have to trust. Why not? Why wouldn't I?
what would you?
I never would want to be that guy that tells you what to do, what not to do. I trust you. Like
No,
that
but
is the partnership
it's
I want to be
it's
in.
not
Is I
about
trust you to know.
it's not about you telling her what to do and what not to do. You don't want to be in that position. You don't want to be jealous, as you said, right?
Mhm.
You want to be in the position where she respects you enough not to even ask for that, because she knows that she might potentially put herself in a shitty, dangerous position where you would have to be compromised because of that, right? I'm not saying that's going to happen.
If
It might
again,
never
I
happen, right?
wouldn't honestly, I wouldn't date a girl that thinks going to a club is dangerous because she might sleep with somebody else. I mean, honestly, if that's how much our relationship means for her,
No, but
then
that's just that's just one example, like going to the club. But what I'm saying is, in general, like, how did we even land here, right? In general, you come into this thing called partnership slash team. I don't
mhm,
think it's a partnership slash team. And because I hold more responsibility over the partnership, then
right.
as a result, it gives me more authority. And when I say this is the way it's supposed to be done, it's not because I'm insecure and because I am jealous and because this and that and because I have small
Again,
dick
yeah,
energy.
Steve. Yeah,
It's
no.
because I'm trying to be protective uh, of this thing called family, right? I'm trying
Yeah,
to
but there's
protect my wife.
protective and there's overly protective, right? And when you're overly protective, you're
I think it's
restraining, right?
protective enough.
Imagine your wife sees all her friends go out, but she can't because she
That
knows
is the
you wouldn't
problem.
allow
That is
her.
the fucking problem we live in. That
But
your wife sees
what
other
if
what
her friends going out is not actually a
that is the
problem?
problem.
Why is it a
We live in a
problem?
pussified society where people share shit on social media, on Instagram, and then your wife sees another wife that, oh, look, she
It
went on
doesn't matter if she
Maldives.
shared
She went on
it.
Maldives. I want the same. But that's just perception, right?
It doesn't matter whether she shared it. She might hear it from work. It doesn't matter. She just knows all the other ladies, married ladies at that, by the way, go out. They don't do stupid shit. They don't sleep over or
How do you know?
do the.
How do you know? You never know.
I mean, okay, yeah, sure, you
Yeah.
don't, but it doesn't matter because let's say for her, that's not what she wants. She just wants to go and dance and listen to some
But how
songs,
would
be there
you
for an hour or
how
two,
would
and
you
come back.
ever know what went down?
Steve, trust. You don't decide to share everything you have with somebody. You don't um make a human that is half you, half the other person without trusting
You
that
do.
person.
You do.
I mean, yeah, you
It
can, but I
happens. It
wouldn't.
happens on the scale. It's called
Sh-
divorce.
sure, I
Yeah.
wouldn't, right? I I do that when I'm at a point that I
No,
feel
I know a lot.
confident in my
The reason
partner.
I'm very concerned about this is because I know a lot of couples that were more like, I don't know, example couples to me, right? I was
Mhm.
looking up to them. And when I see the man being destroyed and basically he lost his kid, he lost his fucking wife, he lost his half of his shit. You look at that and you're like, do I want to be in that position ever, or do I maybe want to be smart about it? And by being smart, I mean you choose smart, you filter the shit out, and you actually be assertive about things, right? And I think, like, going back to the self-confidence, to assertiveness, I think part of being a man is you own the shit, right? If you say something, then you do something, then like, you do what you say you will, or in other words, you do what you mean and you mean what you do, right? You say what you mean and you mean what you say, right? So
Yeah.
if you come into this thing, you believe you're holding the pants, you're like, you don't think, like, if you come in this partnership and you're the leader, then you're supposed to give orders, and orders are supposed to be followed. If they're not, then leave.
Yeah, well, that's I guess the part I don't fully agree with is, yeah, conservatively, men have been the leaders in giving orders. And yes, I think the West has pushed it too far in the other direction where, feminism has, um, I think become overhyped to a certain degree. I share some of the concerns and I can get more into them, right? Um, but I think there needs to be sort of a mutual respect and less based on orders and more based on respect, right? Less based on command and fear. In fact, I think there shouldn't be command and fear. It should just be respect, right? Like if you have authority, she should want to follow that authority rather than it be imposed on her, right? So, but
No, but
everybody
that's
builds different
again, I'm
relationships.
not saying
So
you should be disrespectful, you should be controlling and all that stuff. What I'm saying is she naturally wants to be feminine, submissive. You naturally want to come in
not
and act as a
everybody,
leader,
not
act as a
everybody.
man, right?
There are women that do want that, but not everybody. The different women, different tastes,
That is
different.
the problem with I have with
Why is that a
feminism, right?
problem?
Feminism has indoctrinated women so badly that they want to focus on their career, they want to be masculine, and then they wonder why the fuck they're single and after 30 and nobody wants to date them, right? It's because of that. It's because men are not attracted to that usually.
I don't think women really have the problem of nobody wants to date them. Like, have you seen men? Like you said, they're
Women are at all-time high being single, being on antidepressant and antidepressant medication, and divorces at the all-time high. Like, all of that tells you one thing,
I'd
that
be
the
curious to read
whole
a bit more into
that the whole
those.
feminism hasn't worked. It actually has damaged the whole family unit.
So where does the feminism come from originally? It's from this idea that, hey, women have been suppressed for so long. You're not allowed to do that, to do this. You're not allowed to vote. You're not allowed to drive a car. You're
let's
not
let's talk
allowed
about
to.
vote. Let's talk about vote real quick.
You think
what
women shouldn't vote?
what are the prerogatives of the president? One of them, the president of a democratic country, let's say Moldova.
Okay, so different countries, like in
What's the
Moldova.
most important one? Let me give you a hint. It has to do with force.
Uh, no, in Moldova, the military leader is not the president.
It is.
No,
The president of the country is the supreme commander or the supreme chief. Uh,
not in Moldova
it
actually.
is. It is in Moldova as well.
We'll
It's
fact
it's
check that shortly, but
it's in most
Moldova's a
countries. In most countries, the president is the chief
presidential
leader.
countries. Yes, Moldova's a parliamentary country,
No, in
which
Moldova is as well. In Moldova is as well. The president is the chief in order, or the, you could say, the highest rank when it comes to military, right? What if some shit goes down
mhm.
in Ukraine and we have to run a mobilization? Do you think, in that sense, women should vote?
That is a very specific context to tie to the voting part.
No, but the thing is, according to the constitution of the Republic of Moldova, if some shit went down and the president invokes any kind of martial law, you as a man
Mhm,
are obligated by law to stay in the country, not leave the country, and go to the front.
mhm.
You don't have a fucking choice. In fact, in the US, there is such a thing called selective service. So if you don't enroll in selective service, you can't apply for jobs, and you actually may even be jailed, right? So because of that, like if you ask any women, do you know what selective service is? They don't even know what that is because it doesn't concern them, right? So when it comes to voting, you have like, if you check voting polls, women would most likely vote like 60 to 40 or 60, or let's say 50 something to 40 something when it comes to women slash men, right? So if you take that proportion of women voting for a president that, let's say, the majority of men wouldn't agree to, but then that president wins the election, some shit goes down, and men get sent to war zone, women get to leave the country. Like let's take a look at Ukraine, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Then is it fair that somebody votes and doesn't have skin in the game, whereas you might vote against, but then you fucking get sent to war, and you have a few choices. One of them is leave the country, get arrested, get jailed. Second one, leave the country, get shot, fucking die. Third one, get to the fucking war, fucking die. What's the best chance? Like, should women vote in that sense?
Yes, women should always vote.
In that case, I'm like, in that sense, I don't agree. Like, I would say voting should be a privilege, and people should have to register to vote. I would first of all go that way. Like, not to be super radical, I would say not everyone should be able to vote and should have this privilege to vote, because voting means you have skin in the game, right? You can't just fucking vote because
Yeah,
you
but
feel
you
like
don't
so.
just vote for the leader of the army. You vote for 1,000 other things. Why
Yeah,
would
but
you exclude them?
that's a very important critical thing. Like, if I go and fucking
Yeah,
die
but
on the
why
front,
are you ignoring the other 1,000 things that the president is deciding?
the
You're
president is not.
choosing to focus on this one
I
thing
think that is the
that
most,
involves the
that is the
men.
only most important thing that the president has. Everything else is just beauty, is just decorations, like giving medals and shit, like approving laws.
There are countries that have not been in wars for hundreds of years.
But
What
it
are they
doesn't mean it
voting
can
for?
potentially happen. Like, look at Ukraine. They also thought it's not going to be a war
the
situation,
the
right?
the type of thinking of it doesn't mean it can potentially happen. Like, look, Ukraine has been in a war since 2014 on the eastern side. They voted for the president
Yeah,
essentially
but
after
who's
that
they? Who's
already.
they?
The population.
And part of the population.
Do
No,
you
what I'm
know that
saying is,
women inherently vote against the war more than men do, even though they don't have skin in the game, etc.?
yeah, but what does they vote against the war mean? Like, like, I
They're
don't.
way more, like you said, women are naturally less competitive. I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna agree with you that competition is male specific only, but they are less competitive than men. They're less courageous than men. Like, they take less risks than men. They are less patriotic than men. Women are not ready to go for their country, and they will not vote for a president that says,
But
let's go to war.
how would they know if they don't even, like, how would you know if a president would send you to war or not?
You wouldn't. So
That's
even
my
more so
point.
the case, why the hell would you take away their right to vote?
That is my point. If you are not
If you don't even
educated,
know.
if you're not educated enough,
And
a
you're
lot.
saying men are? Women are
What I'm
more
saying
educated
is,
than men.
what I'm saying, a lot of the times women vote with their feelings. So if somebody has a better speech, caters more towards what women think and like and feel like, that's going to get the most votes. If you look at Kamala Harris, for example, like, who do you think voted mostly for Kamala Harris? Was it men or women? Obviously.
Yeah, okay. That's
Yeah, my point is, if you cater towards what women want to hear, you get the vote. Is there a guarantee that you might lead the men who didn't vote for that president to war? Yes. There's always a potential risk as such.
I
And
mean, honestly, that's a bullshit argument to take away somebody's vote. Like, somebody's vote is extremely important. If they don't get to vote, look, I can make a different
I would
argument.
say,
I
if
can make an
women get to
argument.
vote, they should be able to be held accountable by the same exact law. They should be sent to war by force.
Okay, if you want to do that, sure.
Let's do that. Let's make it equal, right? If you want to make vote equal,
If you
let's
want to
make
do
skin
that,
in the game equal.
if you want to do that, you can.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't understand why you consider that women don't have skin in the game. Their husbands, their fathers, their sons, their nephews, their whole families are
And there's fucking
getting sent
women
into
that
war.
do like, just for an experiment, try to make a dating I mean, I know you're gonna run into trouble with your wife, but try to create a dating account on any dating app, and you'll see how many Ukrainian women, including with kids, are there.
Yeah, a lot of the men have died.
So
In
what's
case
the
you
skin
haven't
in the
known.
game? If they left the country, they left the fucking husband on the front.
You think the women left the husband on the front who's alive and fighting, and they're
They're not fighting
looking?
there.
If a woman
They're not dying on
is,
the front. They're leaving the country, chilling in Miami, and
why are you assuming
yeah.
that their husband is alive on the front when they're looking for a couple?
I'm not assuming they're alive. What I'm saying is they're not on the front and they don't have skin in the game.
Okay, let me put it differently. Skin in the game, right? Skin in the game is only from a certain age to a certain age, right? If you're beyond like what 50, you don't get picked to war. Do you also lose your right to vote? Even if you're a man, you don't have skin in the game.
Come again?
With the same argument you have about women, right? They don't have skin in the game. If you're a man,
Yeah.
and let's say the law of the draft says if you're beyond, let's even make it 40 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In a peaceful situation, right? Like Ukraine is a bit of a special case. In a peaceful situation, you're not drafted once you're 40, right? So you don't have skin in the game. So by your logic, you should not be allowed to vote once you reach 40 because you don't have skin in the game anymore.
Like I said, I would first of all make vote a privilege, right? You should register for vote if you want to vote. And
what is the privilege? Like to register,
the
what,
privilege,
to come
the
online
privilege
and
is
click a button to register? What
no,
does
the
that
privilege
change?
is I elect a representative, whether that's the parliament, the president. I elect somebody from my behalf to vote laws which concern infrastructure, which concern military,
Yeah.
education, and all that, right? So if I have more skin in the game, I should have more authority to vote. That is my point. Whether that's military, whether that's infrastructure, whether that's anything. So if I pay more taxes, meaning have more skin in the game, I should be able to have a bigger say in who's going to be the legislative, the government, basically, writing the laws when it comes to how taxing works, right? That is the argument. So going back to the president, if I have the vote to vote for the president, I should have the
So
equal
Steve,
amount of risk.
look, let's. I want to recap a little bit. So
Yeah, yeah.
when women want to be equal in the work field with men, right? We say that's wrong. That's competitive. You're not supposed to do that. Men
No, I wasn't
are
saying
doing
that.
it.
I wasn't saying
Or
that.
you did say feminism is bad. You did say that
It is
competitive
inherently
is
bad for the family. Yeah.
right. You did
Yeah.
say that. So competition is male specific. You did say that feminism is bad. You did say that women shouldn't be equal in the workforce, etc. Right? If they dare to be, that's wrong. That's masculine. Those are your
Not
words,
necessarily.
right?
Like they can do that. I'm not saying they shouldn't do that, right? What I'm saying is that is less attractive when it comes to mating and building
Okay,
a
but
family,
you're
right?
also saying that if you don't have equal skin in the game by working and doing the taxes and going to war, then you don't get to vote, which is essentially deciding everything, right? Your vote, your government literally sets the laws, decides
Yeah,
wars,
yeah.
drafts,
I
etc.
am of the opinion if you don't have skin in the
So
game,
then,
whether
as a
that's
woman, I would say, well, screw off with the whole feminine thing you expect from me, because unless I go out there and I put out exactly what a man does, you're going to take away the power of my vote. But I want to vote. I want to get a say in whatever's going on. You don't get to take away my say based on what?
what's the argument?
On one thing you've decided. So men don't give birth, right? But the president decides education, which is for children. So men shouldn't vote because they don't have skin in the game. They don't make the children, they don't raise the children,
They do raise the children,
not nearly as much as the moms do, right?
but they contribute to that.
Sure. And women contribute to war operations.
I wouldn't say so. They might
Have
be.
you seen how many doctors are women on the front?
Yeah, but doctors being women on the front doesn't equal to women dying on the front. Women being in the first line.
But
Like
they're
if you take
contributing,
combat,
and dads doing 2 hours of education daily doesn't
and
matter as much as the 14 hours that
yeah,
moms
but
put in education daily.
that's not a lot
You're
of them.
picking an arbitrary factor like the war, right? Which is something that ideally happens once in 100 years.
No, I pick
And
I
you're
pick I
saying,
pick any field. Like give me any field. Take infrastructure, right?
yeah, because again,
If
back
if
in
you're
your
if you're a driver and you drive the road, you have to pay taxes for the road, taxes for the insurance. Would you would it be
Steve,
fair to
what
say
happens in a government? Sorry to interrupt.
yeah, yeah.
What happens in a government where women don't have rights? They have to hide their faces. They have to not speak unless spoken to.
No, I'm
Their
not saying they
rights
shouldn't
are
vote.
extremely.
I'm not saying all women shouldn't vote. I'm saying vote should be a privilege and you should register to vote.
I do kind of agree with that premise,
Yeah,
but I would
yeah.
never discriminate that based on sex. Instead, I would say voting is a privilege. Democracy, in a way that everybody has equal vote, has flaws.
I would say
And
vote
you can
should
see
come,
those.
you should carry skin in the game. If you don't have skin in the game, you
Everybody has
shouldn't be
skin
able
in the game. Skin
no.
in the game is being in the country, living by those laws. That is already
No,
skin in the
that's
game.
not skin in the game because you can leave the country. But if
Everybody can leave the country.
not everybody can leave the country, like if
As a man, can
if
you leave the
tomorrow
country right now?
if tomorrow a martial law comes in effect, I can't leave the country.
Well, if tomorrow a martial law, but it's not going to come.
But women
You're
can.
inventing a situation that would give you the right to decide how you want to decide. But that situation is not actually happening.
No,
You're
but the
imagining
fact that it doesn't
situation.
happen, that's not the point. The point is if we are in that situation
But you're
and we are
bringing that
not
as a
equal.
factor.
No, but if we are in that situation and we're not treated as equal, then why should we treat vote equal in this case, right? You either have equal benefits, equal
Men and women are
privilege.
not equal in everything, right?
That is
Certain
my point.
things.
Like if you
Yeah,
have
why are
privilege,
most teachers women?
because women are interested in people, men are interested in things. It's
Okay,
simple.
so in that case, do men not have a vote in education?
No, but that's not the
But
point.
they don't have skin in the game.
But what is skin in the game? Would you say
Being
skin
there
in
and
the
teaching kids.
would you say skin in the game has to do with risk? Maybe? Like if you take more risk, would it be fair to say that you're entitled to have more reward because you took more risk?
I don't think the risk is
So the
a
risk in
part of
this case,
this.
the risk in this case, we go to war. I might potentially die, but we might potentially win. So that is the risk. The risk is I might potentially die.
Steve,
If you take
your logic does hold up if we live in a tribe that is essentially going to war or needs to survive every day.
But war is just one situation. You could take infrastructure. If you're a driver and you drive the road, you have to pay taxes for the road. Would it be fair to say that you should have more of a say in how those legislations are being voted? Yes. It wouldn't make a lot of sense for a person who's not a driver to be able to vote on the same exact shit when you're actually the user of that. You actually pay taxes for that and you actually have a bigger say. You have more skin
Great.
in the game.
So let's imagine a situation. Only people who drive get to vote on situations affecting roads,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
All of a sudden, all the cross walks are gone because the drivers don't care for them. Oh wait, pedestrians should also be included. Right? Maybe not just
Yeah,
the
but how are they
drivers.
contributing? They're
They're
just using the
risking
road.
their lives every
They're just
day
fucking using
crossing.
the road.
Dude, have you seen the roads? How
No,
many people are dying
I'm not
crossing
saying
a road?
I'm not saying
You
reckless
were
driving.
talking about risk. They're risking more. They are in a much higher risk situation by themselves.
But they're not
than you
paying
are
anything.
in
They're
a
not
car.
paying anything. We also are at risk when we drive. Like we might potentially crash because of reckless driving. Like nobody
The roads
saves you.
are built from taxes from everybody, not just from the road tax that you pay as a driver.
I agree with that. There's
So
VAT,
pedestrians pay for the roads as well.
but
They
you pay
experience the risk as well. They participate as well. But you
but
want to ignore all of that and
but you
say
pay
only
the
the
extra
drivers.
tax. You pay the extra tax for driving the road.
Yeah, but that's the extra task for driving because you're by having a car, you're making the air worse. You're using the streets, right? That's what you're paying for, not for the sole right to be the one who decides on what the law legislation is for the roads.
Yeah, but the
You're
person
paying
who's
for
driving.
specific reasons. When you drive with a car that uses up the road over time.
Yeah, but when you
The bigger the car, the more the tax that you gotta pay. The more bad fumes it does for the environment, the more the tax you gotta pay. That is the reason for it, not the fact that you drive it, right? Like it's all based on something.
But you're also contributing just like everybody else. You're just contributing on top because you're using the road. That's the
Yeah,
point.
and you're paying for that, but everybody else is also paying for the roads by paying their taxes. They're participating by
No,
crossing the
they're not
roads.
paying for the road in any sense. They're not like when you go, like, you have to pay for the auto school, you have to pay for the fucking documents, you have to pay for the fucking insurance. Like, insurance doesn't have anything to do with the fucking road. Like, you pay a lot of
Why
fucking
would
taxes.
what do those things have nothing to do with
Yeah, but my point
saying
is
you're
you
the one?
pay to the fucking public budget. You're contributing to the budget and you have
Your
less.
school does not contribute to the budget. The document is mostly spent on the human effort to build you that document to pass all the validation, the bureaucracy, etc. There is not a payment for, oh, I'm a driver, I need to pay for that. No, I pay a road tax if I have a car that, again, uses the road. The bigger car, bigger taxes, makes environment fumes bigger, worse fumes, bigger taxes, depends on engine, etc. That is the reasoning. None of those things have anything to do that say you're the one that's going to decide on the roads.
Yeah,
No,
but
no.
what about insurance? What about
And
all the
again,
extra
insurance has
taxes?
nothing to do with government and taxes
But I
either. Insurance
pay.
is your money is going to a private company.
Not necessarily a private company. There's a mandatory
Doesn't matter
insurance which you
it
have to pay to the state.
to the state.
Yeah, there's a mandatory insurance you have to pay to the state, basically.
I've had a car for the last 10 years. I've never paid an insurance to the state. I've always got insurance from an insurance company and I've paid my road tax. That's it.
Yeah, but it's mandatory is the point. You can't
Yeah,
say I don't want to pay
that's
it
part of
because
the
I'm cool, you
legislation. So
know?
the legislation
But
is
why
from the
is that
state.
so? Why is that so? Why are you paying that?
So, yeah. Well, okay. Why are you paying for insurance? You're paying for insurance. What are you insuring, first of all? To be very clear, you're not insuring your car. Whatever happens to your car, your problem, your money, you're not getting anything for it. Your insurance covers the damages you can do to anybody else on the street.
But
So
I
I'm
don't
driving
have to
my
do it.
car. Huh?
I don't have to do it. That is the point.
No, so look, you want to drive on the streets, I want to drive on the
Okay.
streets, right? What if you hit my car? You're actually
No, I
poor.
get
You don't have
why
any money to pay
I
for me.
get why
So
we
the
logically
state
pay it, but
decides, look, anybody who wants to drive needs to go and pay some money to some insurance company that will guarantee if they fuck something up, they will pay for those damages, right? So I can also drive safely on the street knowing that if Steve hits me, I get some money back to fix my car. That's the insurance and that's the state mandated insurance, right? That money doesn't go to the state.
when was the last time you crashed?
It's been a while.
That is my point. You're being fucking scammed and you're paying for that scam. And the argument was,
Dude,
if you're paying for that,
the money I paid over the last 10 years does
No,
not
but it doesn't
cover
matter
the
whether
damages I've done 10 years ago.
it doesn't matter
So
whether
it's not a scam.
it doesn't matter whether you pay that to the public budget or if the state makes it mandatory, so you have to pay it anyway. You're still contributing from your own pocket. As a result,
Yeah, but there's a
you're
very
contributing.
specific reason for it. That is your safety check to make
I
sure you
wouldn't.
don't
I wouldn't.
screw up anyone else's
y-
car. That is
Yeah,
literally the only goal of it. And if we're talking about companies screwing you, here's an interesting fact. Insurance companies don't make profits.
I highly doubt that.
Very, very statistical
I
fact.
highly doubt that, and there's a
So
specific
you
reason.
would think
It's like banks don't make profits.
No,
it's,
no, no.
it's bullshit.
There's a bit more information behind it. So insurance companies do not overcharge you like you would think, although
don't
it's a
think so.
reasonable concern.
Take Casco, for instance.
Do not overcharge you. The
They
insurance
actually
you
do.
get,
It's quite expensive, depending on the
Yes,
car, of course.
but what is the sum that you get insured for?
It's a shittier.
I know people that have crashed their own cars and gotten money back from Casco, and they still
Yeah,
do
but
it.
it's a
and, like,
shittier kind of. I had one when I bought my car. It's a shittier kind of insurance if you, let's say, compare the same exact Casco to the Casco you have in Europe or in other states, basically.
I haven't compared it to international.
I've compared the
since-
license to other, and it's a shittier license, basically. And the point is, they do get the profit. They have to. Not only they do get the profit, they get a lot of profit. There is a particular reason why you have the so-called like oligarchs, which particularly are involved in insurance companies, right? And if
So
you
look,
take,
you pay for Costco. I think mine was around $1,000 a year or something like that, right?
yeah, yeah,
And you can keep paying that for 10 years, right? And that's $10,000. In those 10 years, the one time you hit your car, and if it's an expensive car, it'll cost easily above 5,000, very likely 10 or more. One time you hit your car in 10 years, and all the money you've paid them goes back into
yeah,
that
that
car.
is the promise. But what if you never crash?
I mean, kudos for you. The longer you get insurance, the lower that cost goes over a year. There's a formula. But if you look at the economics, at the finances of those insurance companies, and I can't speak for Moldova, things are not as transparent here. But if you look in the West, you'll see a very interesting thing. They literally do not turn a profit, but still they somehow exist. And the wonderful thing of how do they exist is they take the money you give them, they put it in stocks, and the only profits they make is from those stocks.
I don't believe that.
Check out the
No, no,
statistics.
not the stocks,
That's
not the stocks part. I don't believe they don't make a living based on how much you give them.
literally.
That price is literally inflated for them to make a living.
I mean, you would have to verify that to know that for sure. The articles I've read, which again
I
are
know,
from people who have
I
verified
know
it.
the terms and conditions are being abused left and right. So even if you do crash, you're not gonna you're not, especially if it's not a Casco,
Mhm.
especially if it's in Moldova, you're 100% going to be reimbursed way less than you think you will be.
So if you do crash without a Costco, you're getting zero. Insurance
If you do,
never
yeah, yeah.
insures anything about your car.
No, but what I'm saying
Insurance
is if you
only insures
crash,
the other person.
true, if you crash the other
As
person
the other person goes to your insurance company, they're entitled for a full reimbursement of their funds.
on paper, on paper,
That
unless
is the
unless
law, Steve. That is the
unless
law.
unless your car is from the dealership, try fucking doing that in Moldova. Meaning, unless, like, how
They
does
will
that
say your
work?
car costs cheaper, you mean?
What I'm saying is you have to come up with an expertise, right? You go to the insurance company of the person who crashed into you and say, hey, this person crashed into me, here's the evidence, blah blah blah. Then they have to come up with an expertise that the damage caused to your car actually is that high, so they can reimburse
Yeah,
that
and they'll
sum.
try to screw you on it like
So
every
they
other
will
human on
100%
earth
screw you
tries to
over.
screw
No, they will
anybody else.
1000% screw you over.
But
And
you're also allowed
yeah,
to get your own expertise, which would prove that it's actually, higher and you can still
on
get the
paper,
money.
again,
It's all a
again,
battle, right?
they have
Everybody wants
lawyers,
to
they have
save.
everything. It's a lost cause, basically. If you are buying a car secondhand, somebody crashed into
Is
you,
is
it's
that
quite
opinion based on experiences or
experienced experiences of my friends. I've personally had Casco and ever since never crashed. But
so
from
you're disappointed? You should have crashed. You would have been very, very happy that you had Casco.
uh, I mean, it's still a shitty Casco. Believe me, I read the license and it doesn't apply in a lot of cases.
Like what?
Like fucking mud, fucking, like, if you go travel to like specific countries and shit like that, even though Casco is technically available in Europe and whatnot,
Hmm.
like they have a lot, like it's I think 3 or 4 pages of just conditions in which it doesn't apply. And if you just don't pay attention to one of the points, all of the sudden you think you qualify for the Casco, but you don't. And then there's incidents, right? Let's say you have a scratch or something. There's You can reimburse it, but up to a certain amount
Yeah.
and things like that. So you
Thankfully,
pay
my
a
my dealer
thousand.
has notified me of a bunch of those things.
Yeah,
Not sure
yeah.
if everything. Always, there's text in little font that is not
I
cleared
mean,
up
I
front.
did I did read it out of curiosity because it was my first car, first year, first. I'm like, fuck it, I just go Casco because why not? I want to be safe. And
Right.
it's additional to the fucking mandatory. I'm telling you, there's like this Malta SIG thing which you have to pay. You have no
Yeah,
choice.
Casco is not mandatory. The
Casco,
mandatory part is
but what I'm saying is you have to mandatory be insured.
yeah.
That's the state requirement.
As a citizen, as a driver on the streets,
Yeah,
where you might hit my car and I have no other way to get money from you
but it's
except
not
if
a
you're
private.
insured.
It's a private company which has a private public relationship with the state. Is my point. So it's been quite a heated debate, quite interesting. But that goes to say that I really miss you for what we used to have back in high school. And just to let everyone know, this was a friendly discussion. We drank some wine afterwards. There's no like personal involvement in this. It's just debating the matter, debating the argument. And I think this is actually a healthy way. And this is what, like, we should not resort to violence, as with Charlie Kirk, for example,
Hmm.
going back to politics. We should always have room for conversations, for
Exactly.
discourse. So this was one of them. I must say, I got carried away.
I might have gotten
Yeah.
carried away as well a little bit, but I want to say, Steve, like I really respect what we're doing here, and honestly, your point of view and what you're doing, because what I feel like to kind of recap this from kind of a political standpoint is it has become disadvantageous to sort of expose standpoints that are not aligning with everybody else, and I think that has led to a wave of sort of revolt in the states, right, especially where a lot of this is going on, and like the very fact of Donald Trump coming on and all that. Like I'm personally I would say a bit more. I try to be sort of in the middle, and I miss there being a middle option. I feel like people are very extreme these days,
Yep.
and it's sort
Yeah.
of like you either agree fully with me, which is very extreme
Or
in
you're
both
the enemy,
directions,
basically.
or you're screw you, right? So I really hate that. I think in a democracy, especially, you should be able to expose your point of view,
Yeah, it's
even
like
if
the same
it's
with
not a
Moldova.
popular
It's
one.
like if you are not supporting pro-European party, which has a lot of flaws, you're automatically a pro-Russian. I just want
Yeah,
the country
exactly.
to be better, like fucking idiot. Like let's have a conversation. Let's debate the matter, right?
I think
So
I think
it's hard to debate just the matter without being on one extreme or the other. You're either on one extreme by choice or you're the other extreme by label because you're not with us, you're against us, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, being a left-leaning person myself, I find that again, whenever I disagree with the smallest thing, I'm labeled a hater, and it's like, no, I want to be critical, right? I want to put things up to a discussion, right? And
Yeah.
we may disagree, and that's entirely fine. But I think this sort of cancel culture, essentially, right, where you gotta think 5 times before you say something because you might offend somebody, like I mean, guys, offending people is normal to
That
some
is
degree.
part
Like
of
it's
freedom of speech, which is what the constitution
exactly,
of most states covers,
exactly,
even with the risk of offending somebody, right?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, the whole point is like we shouldn't live our lives in fear of offending somebody else by doing what we do, right? Like you should first of all be faithful to yourself and fight for what you believe in, even if that doesn't agree with the mainstream ideas that people fight for. So in that regard, like I said, kudos to you, man. Like keep doing this, right? We may not agree on certain things, but I do want you to keep discussing this. I do want you to. I think in the discussion, and especially in more heated debates where things might seem more extreme, um, I think that's where the truth comes out, right? And I think that's
Yeah,
where
it's
we
important
learn.
for the viewer to see both ends so that they can make their own conclusion.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I've been a victim myself of that. Like I used to be more left leaning, and I was watching left media basically, at least in Moldova. And then I used to believe one thing, and then I'm more on the right now, and I see I saw the extreme on the left, and I see the extreme on the right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you try and like put the two together, you somewhere in between, you can find the truth, right? And you can only do that if you've seen both sides, and you at least need to allow room for potential change and switch of lenses, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah,
you can't
exactly.
be educated on everything unless you haven't tried to see at least what the other person has to say.
Yeah, yeah. I again from personal experience, I've come to a point where I said, you know what, there's millions and hundreds of millions of people that are thinking in a different way, and it's easy for me to just say, oh, they're all wrong and bad and etc. But like, I don't think inherently anyone is evil, right? I don't think anyone wants others, to be in a bad situation.
Everyone genuinely believes they're on the right side.
Exactly, exactly that, right? Like whatever opinion we hold, we think that is the best thing and we fight for it, right? And that's the way it should be, right?
as
But
as that joke, like a person who knows contradicts you, a person who believes kills you. In a sense of
mhm,
faith, almost
right.
believing, like as in like
Yeah, I don't think any of us should be blind, right? Or blindly blindly follow any specific you know, religion or belief. I think we should always question, right? Again, back to our common friend Tim Schneider is very much kind of encourage that. Always question everything, right? And again, in this era of extremes where you're either, fully a Democrat and accept all of different liberal things, or you're fully Republican and you accept those different things and you have to hate on the other side. Like, look, we're all. I think we need. I think we need to again kind of think about countries and populations more as a sort of team. Again, um, I had a personal experience. So we were talking about roads and driving, right? So and you asked me about an accident, and I did have an accident. It was about 12 years ago or so, right? It was a fairly dangerous one. Thankfully, nobody got hurt. Everything was good. It was, I was young and didn't measure a certain risk accordingly. Um, and I had to take a break from driving for a little while and had to get back to driving at a certain point. And I was afraid, the roads are dangerous. People are very, rushing to get places, and one mistake can literally lead to, harm. And at a certain point, somebody said, truck drivers are kind of like one big family. Like when you're driving a truck, between countries and you see a different truck, you're going to stop and help him. And it was just like this kind of perspective. And it clicked with me. And I thought, what if I think about all the drivers in, our local city as kind of this one big family, right? It's all about perspective. Nothing has really changed. But all of a sudden, my mind is completely changed. My perspective is completely changed. And all the things that were stressful to me before that, like, oh my God, somebody's going to hit me. I'm like, nobody wants to hit you. Nobody wants to go through, insurance and the whole thing and fixing the car and like wasting hours and days. Nobody wants to do that. So actually, nobody wants an accident. And the points that, again, were frustrating to me before when somebody would cut me and get in front of me, I would now think, okay, brother, you need to get there sooner. Go ahead, right? And all the same things that were stressful to me before suddenly stopped being stressful. And I realized it is very much about my perspective, right? About how I think about
it
things. Like
always is. Yeah.
the stress doesn't come from the external circumstance. The stress always comes from my perspective of that circumstance. So I started driving and I've been enjoying driving ever since because any anytime somebody cuts in front of me, anytime something would happen that would, piss me off before, I just think, okay, bro, you need this. Go ahead, go do it. Of course, sometimes, I'm in a rush and like, I need this now, and I'm a bit more stressed, right? And situations like that happen. But on the general basis, I just had this realization that we gotta treat each other like we're in this whole thing together, right? Like you have a different opinion than me, right? That's totally fine. Like we don't need to jump at each other's throats over these things. We should debate them. We should try to understand each
Yeah,
other's
whoever has the
standpoint.
power to convince the other wins, basically. And if you're not capable of convincing the other through discourse, then why are you doing it? Like, what are you doing?
Well, interestingly, there's a nuance here. I think I've seen this in the "Thank You for Smoking" movie, where the main guy was teaching this a little bit to his daughter, I think. And I think the example they had there was about ice cream, but essentially, they had a debate. She wasn't convinced, but then he said, "I won," and she's like, "How did you win? I'm still not convinced." And he's like, "Well, we're in a debate. You argued your point. You're not going to change it, right? And like the more we debate this, the more you get, fierce about your standpoint. But I've convinced the audience." Right. And the way that I was discussing about that chocolate ice cream that is just so tasty and etc., the audience now thinks ice cream is tasty. So often in debates themselves, it's hard to stop and say, "Oh, I was wrong." In fact, in most of my life, even when I have convinced people, they've never admitted it to the
No,
face
that's fair.
in
That's
the
fair.
moment. It always results as something like, look, I've planted an idea in the other, person's mind, and over time they get to review that and consider
No, but
that.
that's
And
the whole point of discourse. I don't expect repentance and people begging and saying, "Oh, you're actually right." Of course, everyone has a healthy amount of ego, right? You're not gonna admit to stuff. At least, as you said, I planted the seed. At least the other person maybe is a bit curious. I made them curious to research certain things, to look into things,
but
to
you
maybe
can't
change opinions.
expect to come to the conversation and think they were wrong, I was right, they should
No,
repent
but
for
that's a
that.
foolish, I would say, childish
Like
approach. Yeah,
whenever you have that approach, the other person is never going to admit that they were wrong, and you're
they would
never
be
going to
more
get to a
defensive, and
consensus.
yeah.
Yeah, like having that respect to each other is extremely important. And to allude to another kind of an issue here that I think was kind of taken to extreme, again, I'm not an expert on this in any ways, right? But in the US you have this for example, topic of what do you call it, reparations, right, to
Oh,
the yeah, it's a
yeah.
spicy one, right? um and again, my personal opinion here, but very short. um i don't think I don't think you can do that, right? I don't think you can pay for properly pay for all the historical sins any particular culture or etc. has done, especially when we're talking about generations ago. And whenever we are adding privilege, right? We say white people are privileged because of this and that and that, and we want to make the situation more equal to everybody. Hooray, I'm all in for fairness. But you have to also recognize that by doing that, you are essentially taking the tax money from those people that are, that they've worked for it, they fought for it, they've died for it. And now you say, we want to be equal, so we're going to take all that commonwealth and we're going to split it
No,
across
but that's
everybody equally.
socialism. Socialism, I would
Yeah,
always have a problem with socialism and the policies which are adopted in that sense. Like, let's tax the rich, let's this, let's that.
yeah,
Like,
same thing. Taxing the rich never works. You have to think
yeah,
about what it promotes. It promotes the rich
it's
leaving the
populist to
country.
say that it's popular, but it's not feasible. It's not.
You have to be realistic
Yeah, you have to look at
about how
history. If you
things
don't learn from
actually
history,
work.
you're repeating the same mistakes essentially.
Another parallel is I feel like right now the two extremes are about idealists, right? Which I feel are the Democrats, like we want to live in this ideal world of everybody being equal, etc. Versus, I think the other side is trying to be more pragmatic, but again, they have their own different, extreme convictions. Um, and I'm concerned. I'm more concerned about the fact that we can't find something to agree with than any particular extreme. I think the important bit is, look, we're in this together. We have to build a world where we can exist together, where we can respect each other, and most importantly, where we can come to the table and discuss any differences we have, and maybe leave the table with those differences, but at the very least be able to discuss it and have respect for the other opinion, even if it's not something we particularly agree with. It's just like that's the basis of democracy, that's the basis of a world I want to live in, right?
I
So
100% agree with that.
thank you for the opportunity to be here, Steve. This has been like
Yeah.
super fun.
To maybe end on a I was gonna say non-technical, but we're already in that space. But maybe to lean more to a closing, I was gonna ask: is there anything you do outside of work which you enjoy doing, and maybe would recommend people to do?
I mean, honestly, as a dad, 2 kids, I don't get enough time to, do much stuff outside of the work. So, it's work, it's a bit of sports, which is also motivation, and it's a bit of gaming, which is also research into, what competitors are doing.
I'll hook you up
Um,
into AOE for.
oh, sorry,
I'll hook you up into AOE for. We have a gang
for
of
sure.
8 people or so.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, let me get a bit through past the AOE 2 and the DLC, and like I'm getting there. But yeah, like I said, it's a super fun game. But yeah, I mean, other than work, honestly, I try to connect with people. I try to read. I try to get a finger on the pulse on what's going on. I feel like nowadays we're living in a world of constant change, where previous assumptions about what we had, even peace, that we've gotten so used to, that we've lived throughout. are kind of getting thrown out the window to some degree. So, just trying to survive, man, trying to understand what's happening, and what's the best thing I can do for my family. When you become a parent, you really get that motivation because you understand, um, you're now an example to your kids, and whatever you do, whatever your achievements and flaws, that's something they look at, right? So it's one more motivation to be the best version of yourself that it can be. So I know a lot of people think about kids and they're like, oh man, there's so many challenges, it's so hard, why would you do it? It's the best thing, like really, really the best thing. And it's not something that happens like, oh, I'm gonna, get like my life done and then have kids. It's something that happens in parallel while you build your perfect life, right? So as soon as you've built a relationship you can trust in, or that's the way you want it, with a person that you want to live your life with. I think the biggest thing you can do in your life is have kids, right? Because then then really the biggest growth in my life has happened at the point when I got kids, and it has put everything in perspective. It has made me more conservative, right? I started questioning things that before I was just like idealistic about. So yeah, having fun stuff to do outside of work is great. Play games, challenge yourself, in work and outside work. Always invest time to grow yourself. And yeah, if you have the opportunity to have kids, it's the best thing you can do.
Dude, I cannot say, but I agree with that 100%. I guess waiting for that myself. Mm, I can't say I enjoy that yet, but I am looking forward and open to the idea. And on that note, maybe I want to ask I want to ask the final closing question, which is what I ask everyone. Aside from having kids, what is your final piece of advice for the audience?
Be the best version of yourself that it can be, right? You only live once, really. So um, invest in yourself step by step, right? And do as much as you can. Like we're not gonna get a second chance. Don't leave anything in your pockets. Put it all on the table. Do everything that it can. I think especially now in these challenging times and competitive times, like present yourself and be the best version that you can be. And believe in yourself first of all, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is gonna. So
Yeah, beautiful. I Again, I hate to be the person who agrees with you, but I do agree with that, everything you said. But yeah, we ran quite a debate, and we disagreed a bit, but in the end, we do agree. And I'll say once again, it was a respectful conversation. I really enjoyed it. I missed the debate. I'll say that. And even though my video guy is gonna hate me for making this so long, I'll still say it was an amazing discussion. I'm looking forward for a V2, perhaps this time to go over the script. Yeah.
nice. Looking forward to it, man. It was an honor to be here. Thank
Yeah,
you for the
it was my
invitation.
pleasure. And ladies and gentlemen, this was VUnstaged. Keep your mind open and your source unstaged. And of course, do me a favor. If you really stayed until this point and you enjoyed the discussion, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment, whatever. So I'll see you in the next one.